Rolling. Ben Katzner.
It's so funny. We're both so I don't know. No one knows this about us probably, but we used to live together. We've known each other for a long time, and now we have to like sit down and kind of be half serious for a little bit, and it's so hard. You can already feel it's so hard. For
I know.
us
That's why I was like, I'm glad we're catching up. And I was like, because typically I do the intros like, this is this. Then it was like Sergeant Major of Ranger Regiment till blah 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 blah. And I was like, Ben Katzner.
Give my name and rank. Professional clown, please.
Professional clown. To the Academy of whatever, New York. No, Ben Katzner, love and death. We met through our good friend Brandon Brown.
Shout out to B Brown.
I'm sure he'll love this. I think he listens. I would say
B.
Brandon,
Brown,
I love you if you're listening.
Yeah, I know you're listening. And I would say I shout him out on a podcast probably once every like year. I get a B Brown shout out where I'm just like, yeah, me and my friend B Brown did something insane, and then people are like, whoa,
whoa, yeah.
So yeah, but without him, there's no us. So
exactly. Yeah,
shout out to B Brown.
Yeah, moved in. I moved in, and then you moved in a little bit after. Correct?
Yeah, I was after you. You guys, because you guys had. Well, and then Nate was also there.
Nate was there.
Let's really give the full. Yeah. Let's just dox ourselves right now.
Nate's been on the podcast.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. So you guys all kind of knew each other from like high school, growing up, all that sort of stuff. I knew B Brown from college. This is post college. This is probably like, I don't know, 2014-ish.
Yeah, because I moved in 14, and then you weren't too far after.
Yeah. So I'd been living in St. Cloud. I was working at a newspaper there. Decided that I wanted to be in Minneapolis, pursue stand-up comedy a little bit more, whatever. Ended up getting like what I would have called a side gig then as my full-time job at the Minnesota Department of Human Rights in Minneapolis. Just like almost like a joke. I threw it. I was like, yeah, I mean, I'll apply for this, but they wouldn't hire me. I don't have the credentials, whatever. And then they're like, no, you're hired. And I was like, oh, shit, I got to find a place to live. And then ended up moving in. B. Brown had a spot. And then
he had like 9 spots.
He has a lot of spots.
There was like
so many rooms.
You could have easily like turned about 4 or 5 more of those rooms.
True.
Like way more if you wanted to like really, really bank on it.
That's a good point. Yeah. Could have done a lot of that. Could have had an AC upstairs, whatever. We don't have to get into what could have been done. What's done is done. But yeah, I moved in and then you were there and it was great. I mean, I feel like we had good years there.
Oh, it was amazing years. I know. Those are like, everyone's like, what the hell are they talking about? We're going to talk about the fun and glory years of our 20s. So strap in, audience. Yeah. No, dude, it was a fun time. So Ben is a comedian, also did his time out in New York, Minnesota comedian.
That's true.
Went out to New York, cut your teeth out there. Now you come back and you have your new special out, Supple Harlet.
That is true. Which free on YouTube. If anyone wants to go check it out, it's out on YouTube right now. Check it out. Tell your friends. Even if you hate it, comment that you hate it. I need something.
I want you to at least listen to 12 minutes of this podcast so I get an average and then go check it out.
Yes.
Break my average of 11 minutes.
Yes. That's what we need, folks.
Yep. So, no, I listened to it today and I as you came through the door, I was like, it's really funny.
Thanks,
like,
man.
I'm not like, giving you crap or anything like that. It's kind of like, it's good. Like, and I said that back in 2018 when you had a solid 45-minute set, and I was like, dude, this is really good. Like, I'm not even saying that because you're my friend. I'm saying because if you were, I was like, hey, it'd be half shitty, half good.
Yeah,
like,
you wouldn't lie.
Yeah. It's like, dude, it's kind of funny, but it's good. Like, I was laughing the whole way, and I was like, this good, awesome.
I'm mentally ill, so it's hard to get compliments. It's hard to like the first 48 hours of the special coming out were so tough for me because I was getting like texts and DMs and all this stuff, and I was like, what if this is a prank and everyone's just lying to me? Like everyone's just being nice because they feel like they have to be nice. And like, hey, I know you spent money on this, so we watched it and it was great, you know. But it means a lot that you say you're right. You're not gonna lie. You're and that you pass that down to your children. You know, I just gave your daughter a hug and she's like, you need to brush your teeth. It's like, this is an honest family, okay? So like, this is no one's lying here.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
respect that. Yeah.
No, and that's the thing too is that even when we saw you in 2018. My parents were there too, and I wanted to bring this up because your joke was still in there. Okay. About the Simpsons, growing up on the Simpsons.
Sure.
And we were in the crowd, and I was like, "This is hilarious," because my mom was the same way. My mom, I don't know why,
didn't let you watch the Simpsons.
Well, yeah, I watched Terminator 2 at 3 years old.
Isn't it funny?
It's wild. And my mom's like, "No, the Simpsons aren't appropriate."
Right.
And you made the joke. And you're like, whose parents didn't let him watch The Simpsons here? My mom goes, yeah. She was like drunk. And, and then you literally went like, oh, all right, and then, and I was like, that. And part of me was like, Oh my God. You know, like I was like, dude, if you start doing crowd work and you tear her apart, I'm like, oh man, this isn't going to be good, you know, like, but you kept moving forward. I was like, okay, good. Thank God. You know,
the difference between, in my opinion, The Simpsons and Terminator 2 is in Terminator, he listens to his mom. Bart Simpson doesn't listen to his parents. No. That's why my parents won't. They'd be like, oh, he's a rascal. He wouldn't listen to them. He's a nuisance, whatever. Yeah. But John Connor, he listens to Sarah
Connor may steal ATM cash with his little mini computer.
yes.
But he listens to his mom.
He's a good boy.
He's a good boy.
No,
and that was the thing. So she made that comment, and then we went and saw you afterwards. And I was like, my mom, I was like, you said something too, like some woman said something.
Oh, really? I didn't even know.
And you were like, and she's like, that was me. And we were all, meeting up after the show.
Long ago.
I know, yeah, right. 7 years.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and that was back then. We watched. I was like, dude, this is a 45-minute set. Like you had a solid 40. That's and now funny. Not to be like I watch a lot of comedian podcasts, but I do watch a lot. It's just that the last 7-8 years.
Yeah.
Or even a decade. God, I can't even think of it's been that long. But now everyone's got their podcast. You kind of pick and choose your comedians, but like they talk about that. Now it's like you said, everyone kind of knows the comedian's process.
Yeah, it's like if magicians started podcasts and you'd be like, oh, now I know how every trick works. Yeah, that's what stand up is now. It's
exactly.
Like all the things. You could never go to a show and know more about comedy than someone who was doing comedy 30 years ago. Yeah. It's like crazy how it is right now.
It's pretty wild. But when I remember them saying like, yeah, you could have a killer 45 and then the next set, you're done. Like it's and I was like, we got him on a good 45.
Yeah, if you feel like you got a good show, that's great. Because I can tell you, I probably did 2 nights, and I bet one night I hated, and one night was like great. That's how, especially when I'm at the level where it's like, I definitely don't always get to headline multiple nights at very, very good clubs. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times people will go like Thursday through Saturday at like what we would call an A club, right?
Yeah.
So like in Minneapolis, that might be Acme, right?
Yeah.
Comedy Works in Denver, Comedy on State in Madison. Like these places, like friends would fight each other to the death. You know that scene in The Dark Knight where like the Joker like breaks a pool cue or whatever and is like, fight for it? That's what comedians would do to get into some of these clubs, okay?
Yeah.
So like I'm not there. I'm not headlining at those clubs. Yeah. If I'm lucky, I get the feature, which is the middle. You do 20 to 30 minutes. Yeah. You have a good time. You hope they ask you back, right?
Yeah.
I'm usually doing like VFWs or like backroom whatever, or then the occasional maybe like B or C club where I'm like, I'm there for 2 nights. I don't have a lot of shots at this. We're probably only doing 2 or 3 shows. Yeah. And like, if one of them goes off the rails, the pressure is for the next one to be the best show I've ever had in my life. So you got a good show. So that's great.
That's awesome. And so then, I mean, like, it's always the question is like, how did you
6.5 inches?
Yes. Okay. All right. Wet. It's above the average. Above the average if you Google.
With an enhancement. Medically enhanced.
Like, I mean, people ask me like, when you want to be a film director? I was like, I was 13. When did you kind of be like, I want to go down this? Because like me and you, like we're creatives on that thing. It's like, you're insane to go this route or you're to keep going. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like you went to New York, you keep going, you're still you got your special released. Yeah. You got your 45 minutes. Like you're here now, but you were talking, both you and I, like 10 years ago, what made you 10 or plus years ago? Yeah. You're like, hey, I think this comedian, or I want to be a comedian. Like,
so that's a great question. It's great in the sense of like, also I like how you framed it. It'd be like, people are like, you're kind of insane. It's insane to do this. I feel more insane doing it now than I did when I started. Yeah. When I started, I'm like, this makes perfect sense. Why wouldn't I do this? I'm the 4th funniest person in my friend group. Like, why wouldn't I go, I guess?
To let you know that Amanda once, she goes, you should do comedy. I'm like, that's a terrible idea.
Oh, she loves you so much. That's so great.
She was like, because I make people, like in a group setting, I'll like have a good time, make people laugh. But I'm like, and I remember because I knew enough. I'm like, I'm already a psychopath for thinking I can like direct $100 million films, which I still have that aspiration. But to think, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to be a comedian. Yeah. Like you want to stack the deck. Yeah. Like anyways, but yeah.
No, but that like connects because like I was in journalism. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I like this, but it's also, you can see the ceiling in a lot of ways where if you're not this big high profile journalist, like it's a pretty dicey career path where it's like you could be very good at wherever you are and be there for 35 years or something. And then they're like, hey, we're going to furlough you. We're letting you go. You're so good that now actually we can't afford you and we don't want you. Yeah. That was like a scary thing in journalism where I was like, I don't know that I want to like dedicate all this time to that. I do like telling stories. That's what it really is for me. It was just telling a bunch of other people's stories. I was like, I want to tell stories that I created that are from my head, whatever. So screenwriting was what I thought I was going to get into, right? And was doing that, and then was trying to do like funny like pilots and scripts and all this stuff. And then it's like, you know, you got to send it out. You're like, hey, will you read? Nobody knows what they're doing. They're like, hey, will you read this thing? You're like, okay. And then they're like, it just takes like 6 months for them to get back to you or whatever. And you're like, oh, I just want to know if this was funny now, you know? And then I started thinking about stand-up. I wasn't really into stand-up as a kid. I liked SNL. I liked Mad TV. I liked Chappelle's Show when I got older, all that sort of stuff. But it wasn't like, oh, Richard Pryor's Live on the Sunset Strip. I watched that when I was 7, and that set me on. I'm not that guy, unfortunately. I wish I was. But I just wanted quicker feedback to like funny thoughts and ideas that I had. And then I was maybe talking about this with my friend. This guy gets shouted out on podcasts a lot. Shout out to Bryce Anderson. He like dared me. I think he like dared me that I wouldn't do stand up somehow. I feel like, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna do it. What's happening? I'm gonna go. And in St. Cloud, Minnesota, the place that is now, I think it either burned down or closed down, Rum Runners. I remember the floors being sticky. I remember the venue being known for serving underage people. And I was like, well, that's where comedy lives. that's
where it starts.
So I did my first set there, and it went fine. I was just talking to some friends about it, and I'm at 11 years now, probably will come up in 12 years in September. And it's one of those things where they filmed some of my first sets, and like I remember them laughing just enough to keep me going. I didn't start really bombing until probably like 4 sets in, 3 or 4 in, and that's enough time to give you confidence. Like, well, the first 3 were good, so like I'm probably fine. It's probably these guys, you know.
Well, the best part is in Minnesota, so at least you get the Minnesota nice. Was it at least the passive aggressive like, or silence? You know, like someone's like, "You suck," you know, or did you get any?
I'm trying to think of the early ones. I mean, bro, it's like the hardest thing as a comedian for me. I would much rather someone be like, dude, you suck, or like, you need to have more confidence or whatever, because I can work with that.
Yeah.
The silence is tough. One of the hardest bombs I've ever had was at this place called Goonies in Rochester. It's like people would basically be coming from like the Mayo Clinic to cheer up. You know, like, yeah, like my husband,
cancer treatments.
Yeah, my husband's over there getting treatment. They gave us free tickets. And they, you know, like they thought we needed a LARF today or whatever. And then I'm like, so slavery, right? And like, man, I just bombed. So I still have a clip of this somewhere, I think, where I just have like the last 15 seconds of my set. Yeah. And I was featuring, so I was doing 30 minutes. And I just go, well, I don't have any other jokes. So, all right, see you guys later. Like, that's how I end, which is not how you want to end. And then I remember a guy who literally sells real estate, who I'm not even sure does comedy, not even as a slight to him now, but I'm saying I'm not even sure he's a comedian, or he was barely a comedian at that time, just destroyed. So you learn, you're like, well, it was my fault. It wasn't the audience. I wasn't giving them what they needed. But that was like one of the hardest bombs. Now you think that was like a year or 2 in. I think I came back from New York. I think I was probably like 2018, 2017. So it was probably before you even saw me that I had one of the worst sets of my entire life that I still think about probably every month. Yeah. So it's crazy how it works.
But I mean, like that drive though, and this is my little take on it, which I understand, like to the 1% of it, is I rapped in high school. It's ninth grade. God. Our own original song.
Okay.
We wrote the lyrics. We did the beat. It was super corny, cheesy. People loved it for like and it was super long. It's like one of those things you're a kid like, well, if somebody loves it for 2 minutes, let's do it for 9.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And we did it, and we rehearsed it for weeks and weeks. We knew every line, every beat down. There's 3 of us. Josh Reedus was part of it.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yep.
Let's expose everybody. This is great. Shout out to Josh.
I know, right? And we rapped it, dude. And that high on the stage of nailing the rap song and people cheering, like genuinely, like they wrote that themselves. They created the beat them, obviously we're like ninth graders, but that like cheers and like, dude, I get it. Like I get that hook. And I imagine when I've heard comedians talk about, again, listen to other podcasts, that dopamine, that hit when someone does laugh on stage or you get a crowd is the highest of highs, you know? And then obviously it's the lowest of lows when you bomb.
It's something incredible. I mean, it's very much like public speaking or something. Someone's like a good orator and the way they can like whip up a crowd and like, that it's so funny when you see like people do certain hand gestures or whatever. You're like, you've practiced that. This is all, none of this is like spontaneous. It's all like you're trying to whip them up and come to you and go back and the ebb and flow of an audience, and learning that you can kind of, at your highest height, control that a little does feel a little bit like magic, I guess, where you're just like, whoa, it's crazy that I can do this. But, also it's just funny to be, sometimes it's fun just to be like, yeah, I'm the guy who made people laugh tonight. That's great. Like, I get as much satisfaction sometimes as making an audience laugh as I do making my wife laugh. You know what I mean? Like, honestly, she's harder to make laugh than most audiences. She's watched the special. I don't do a premiere for the special, and like she laughed one time. And it was when someone else laughed in the thing. She's like, that's a crazy laugh. And I was like, okay, but what about the jokes, though? She's like, I've seen them, whatever. I'm like, cool, this is great. I love my marriage. This is fantastic.
Well, I mean, like I said, it's that, I guess, honest feedback. So if you really make her laugh, you're like...
Yeah. It's like, it's one of my favorite things to do. Like, I know I sound like a cuck right now because I love my wife or whatever. But like, it's so funny how much I enjoy it. And to the point where I'm like, if I can get even an annoying laugh, if she's like... annoyed at me but is laughing because she's so annoyed, I'm like, that's a win. I got that, and that's maybe I need to take that kind of energy into being a comedian.
Well, I mean, there's the thing too is like, I mean, and starting out, I mean, what the daunting, like I said, daunting, like it's all daunting back in 2013 14 when you first started rocking and rolling, dude. Like what did you think, like, because typically for filmmakers, New York or not even LA, and I'm like, for myself, I'm like, I'm not moving to LA. I'm not doing that. It's just not me. I'm going to take the hardest route possible and like try to make it from the Midwest.
Sure.
You went out to New York though. I mean, or even from the beginning, do you think that you were, I'm going to do LA or I'm going to go do New York scene? Like, I understand that sometimes like in comedy world, you used to have the LA and then you had, which I can't remember what they called it, whatever the club was. And then you have the New York clubs when they're two different types of styles of comedy.
Sure. So, two answers to this. So, first, for me, at first, coming from St. Cloud, it was just like Minneapolis.
Yeah.
That was the first place I wanted to go. So, there are like scenes where you start, and then there are like secondary scenes, and then a lot of times people will go to New York or LA. So, oftentimes, people have moved twice before they even get to now it's Austin is a big one too. So, people will be like, yeah, I grew up in North Dakota. I moved to Chicago, and now I am in New York. Like, that's more of a typical way, pre-pandemic for sure. So I wasn't really like New York or LA at first. I didn't really know what I didn't know. So I was like, all I know is like the guys in St. Cloud, who I'd done it 5 times in small ass St. Cloud, Minnesota, were like, okay, you need to go to Minneapolis. That's what they were saying. It's more, you can get up more, you can do more open mics, there's better shows, better audiences. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go to Minneapolis. And then you're in Minneapolis and you're like, well, there's a bunch of paths you can take. There are awesome comedians like Nick Swartzen's from Minneapolis. Mitch Hedberg is from, I think, like St. Paul or something. Maria Bamford's from like Duluth or something like that. And then there's guys like Chad Daniels, who he lived in Fergus Falls. He's like our example for everything of like, you don't have to leave the Midwest to do this. He's an incredible comedian, has a Netflix special.
Sounds familiar, Chad Daniels.
Yeah, I think you would really like. I mean, like you should check out his Netflix special. He's got a bunch of albums on like, he popped off kind of on Pandora. Or like, it was probably one of the only people I really know who like really got into a lot of people's rotations because of Pandora, right? But he maybe flirted with LA a little bit, but mostly was like, nope, I'm staying in like Fergus Falls, which is comparable to the place that I grew up in. He has kids and he's like, I want to be able to raise my kids. I want to be able to be with my family, whatever. And then once they go into college or whatever, now he's still in Minnesota, but the big move for him was more to Minneapolis area than to LA or New York. So that's what's interesting now is like, you don't even have to be in LA or New York. You can do what you're doing in your house. You know, you can there are people who do stand-up comedy without an audience, you know, like, so like you can kind of try anything, but back in the day, it was like, what do I think? New York or LA? When I was in journalism, I thought I was going to move. I wanted to kind of move to LA because I thought screenwriting later, whatever. As I was doing comedy, I kind of got to a point where I was like, you know, maybe not the best. I definitely wasn't the best comedian in Minneapolis by any means, but I felt like I was good. And when you're good, I was working a lot of the clubs. I wasn't headlining everywhere, but I was working all the clubs except for one, which is Acme, which is for us here. It's like it's the white whale of all the clubs because it's the hardest one to get into. They hire the fewest amount of people on a slower basis, and you have to work your way up. It is truly, you start at the bottom rung, you start as a host, you work as a feature, and then you can headline later, right? And I remember they were auditioning people to host. So like, hey, if you do well at these auditions, we like you, we show you the head guy. If he likes you, you're in. And they were looking at me a little bit. I kind of fell out. They're like, not yet, whatever. And then they were looking at my friends, who I thought were some of the funniest people ever, and they didn't hire my friends. And like, I work at Acme now. I love Acme. It's a great place. I stand by. It's one of the best clubs in the country. But I remember them not hiring my friends and being like, oh, if they're not going to get hired there, I'm not getting hired there. So I'm just going to go somewhere else. And I'm like, I don't think I'm that good yet. Like, I think I should be way better. This is let's call this 2016-ish. And then in the winter of 2017, I was like, I'm going to New York. So I packed literally one suitcase. I had a carry-on and moved to Sunnyside, Queens, randomly found a room in an attic, roach infested. They were composting in the kitchen. I remember that. That was great. And then that was just like, all right, I'm in New York. Let's see how it goes, you know? And then that's kind of how it has to go. You just have to kind of do it. I feel
do
like.
it. No, I agree with you. I think that's like that what separates people from, I don't want to say succeeding obviously as well, but you're like cutting your, like, I'm going to at least give it a shot. Yeah. You know, like give it a shot. Yeah. Like I need to know and not think like what could have, you know what I mean? Or
I think that's like what separates in comedy, in a lot of things. Like there isn't this huge difference. There are so many funnier people than me who don't do comedy. The biggest difference is I'm like, well, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go on stage and try it. And a lot of people have a hard time with the stage fright aspect. A lot of people have a hard time just with, there's a lot of like, comedians will say politics, but that's not like politics in the sense of like, oh, who did you vote for politics? But just like,
the politics of hierarchy.
Did you schmooze with this person? Do you know this person? No. Oh, you didn't know. Oh, you pissed this person off. Well, it's going to be tougher to do this thing. Yeah. Like there's a lot of that stuff. A lot of like, I don't know if you call them soft skills, gatekeeping, whatever. Which is, you know, social media has mitigated that a little bit, but now at the same time, it's different gatekeepers. Now it's the algorithm is more of a gatekeeper. It's like, oh, you only have 50,000 followers? Well, we can have you on a Thursday for one night. But if you had 200,000 followers, we could have you a full weekend and be great. And it's like that sort of stuff is the new gatekeeping thing. But a lot of people just have a hard time leaping off the dock into the water to just even get going. And it's like, you know, you're like, that's literally how I explain. It's like, I want to be a swimmer. It's like, well, you have to get into the water. Yeah. If you're not going to swim, you can't swim. You're not going to be a swimmer. That's all it is. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's so, see, I guess I don't say it evolved, but like, obviously COVID helped some certain aspects evolve. Like podcasting obviously blew up.
Yeah.
And then people were trying to figure that out. And in general, like podcasting world in general, everyone not saying jumped on, but like, it's funny because I was looking at stuff and I'll see clips from like, I was like 5 years ago and it's like an actor.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, COVID.
Crazy.
I have more subscribers than you right now.
Yes.
And it's like a very prominent comedic actor or, you know, it's like, well, it's COVID and let me start my podcast for the next 2 months and then they bail out on it, you know, or whatever. And, but yeah, I feel like, you know, it's kind of funny looking at prior to COVID, but even like looking at social media and YouTube back in the 2013, 14, 15 era, did you see anybody doing that type of stuff? I mean, it's massive now.
So Podcasting is so fun. I just did this podcast, Keith and the Girl, and I'm like talking to them, and they've been around for like 20 years. So like, and Marin has been around for a long time, but it just wasn't popular like that. It was popular for like, and it wasn't video or anything. It was all like audio and everything. So it's like, there are certain things like Never Not Funny with like Jimmy Pardo, blanking on some other ones, but like, there are certain podcasts that are kind of like institutions. Like Marin is an institution in the podcast world.
Yeah, because I know him not even from his comedy, but I remember downloading my first podcast in 2009.
Yeah,
and it was Mark Maron.
That's awesome.
You know, and Doug Loves Movies.
Yeah, Doug Loves Movies.
In fact, that was the only thing I actually listened to was like Doug Loves Movies, and I thought that was fun. And I knew he was a comedian, so I downloaded his album. Different world, different time. Yeah. 2009, you know.
And even before that, so they've probably been doing that stuff. Man, when did Marin start? I bet Marin started in like...
Probably the 2000...
I would say 2006, 2005, maybe earlier even. So think about all that time before. Yeah. And then you're right. Like COVID happened and everyone was like, well, we can't go anywhere. I guess we'll just do the thing or whatever. And the way people were just consuming content changed so much. The way people were putting it out changed. And like, I have a friend, my friend Kelsey, great comedian. She's from Spokane and she lived in LA and just like wasn't really getting the traction. I feel like she was hoping she wanted maybe. Hopefully I'm not speaking out of school, but whatever, in LA, and has friends who are like doing all these great things and whatever. Pandemic hits. I think she moved back to Spokane and then just starts putting out clips of her stand-up, starts putting out all their stuff online, blows up. I'm like, on like Facebook Reels, I think was probably the first big thing. And then Instagram, TikTok, all this other stuff follows. And she's not even in one of the main places anymore. You know what I mean? That's what the pandemic did. The pandemic changed. It's like, you literally now, you feel like you can make it from anywhere. It's also tougher as a creator because you're like, well, it feels like if you can make it from anywhere, I'm anywhere and I'm not making it the way that I want. Like that sucks. But it is crazy to see. You'll see someone and they'll be like, yeah, I live in... Nate Bargatze is one of the... Do you know Nate?
Oh, I love Nate. Yeah.
Okay, so one of the biggest comedians on the planet right now lives in Nashville, you know, and was in New York for a time, whatever, but always had a plan, I think, to be in Nashville or go back to Tennessee, whatever, all that sort of stuff. And he's doing arenas, and that's just off the strength of like his content, finding his audience, whatever, and I love how many different avenues there are now. It's not just you have to be in New York and LA, you have to get a manager, an agent, you have to be in this or that or that. It's like, try whatever. If you find something that sticks and you build an audience, people will come to you because of that.
Yeah. And like I've seen, again, I think you're, I don't know if you know him personally, or Jeffrey
Asmus.
I came across him and I feel like he's blown up.
Yeah.
Or at least maybe in my algorithm. I know he has a lot of algorithm.
Yeah, that's my buddy Jeff.
Yeah. Only because he wears the old school Minnesota Timberwolves. Yes. And I was like, oh, nice.
Yeah. He's a great example of like, He's almost an example of something else too, of like, you persist, you gotta persevere in the thing. Jeff has always been a very, very funny person, insane, unhinged, but awesome and great at comedy. And during the pandemic, he was one of the guys, he was working the road a lot, but like smaller venues like those BC clubs, I think. And like everyone would be like, we love this guy. He should be more. Why isn't he a bigger deal? Whatever. And he's like, I don't know. I can't control that. Pandemic hits. I think he had tried New York and then moved back to Chicago. And then pandemic happened. I think he was thinking about like grad school. He'd broken both of his arms at a certain point, literally having like friends take care of him in Chicago. I think at that point he got like robbed. He's got an awesome story about getting robbed and then like the guy asking him to like unlock his phone for him. Like all these weird things. Everything is telling him like, you got to get out of here. You got to quit or you got to whatever. But then I think he was maybe posting on Reddit and he just kind of like popped off. Like something just hit and they were just like, we love this. Whatever this is, we want more of it. And he'd always been a very consistent like, okay, like you got to feed the algorithm, I'll do it, whatever. And it just hit like a wave. And now guys like him are in these positions of people like, I mean, they're selling out everywhere they go. When I work with Jeff, the crowds are great and the room is packed. You know, I don't know if you know who Jordan Jensen is. I think if you like Jeff, you'd like Jordan Jensen. She's in New York. Another person who like during the pandemic got in at the Comedy Cellar. I think was opening for Louis for a while or something like that. And then like just has blown up online and all this stuff too. And is a great comedian. She has a Netflix special coming out within the next couple months.
Oh, wow.
And like, these are people I did open mics with, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like so we've seen each other at like our lowest lows and our highest highs. But it's just persevering and then figuring out however all this stuff shifts and changes and moves, figuring out your little piece of that and being like, okay, how do I do this authentically to me without completely selling out and being like, you know, if everyone's doing front-facing videos, how can you do a front-facing video that's not just like, hey, everybody, why don't you like and subscribe? Because if you're not that person and then you get those people to your shows, they're going to be like, what the fuck is this, you know? So being authentically yourself in a changing landscape and just persisting and persevering, like Jeff is a testament to that. So like, that's what I'm trying to do, but it is hard out here. I'll tell you that right now. Mentally, it's so annoying to be part of all of this. You get it.
Well, no, I'm with you. I'm excited. I have my own podcast, but it's the same way within the veteran sphere of people trying to figure out what they're doing or like building brands. Even with brands, you know, like, hey, we need to get 100,000 followers. Like, well, you better start cracking at it. You know, like,
And we all need 100,000 followers.
Yeah, we all want that. We all need to build our socials, you know. And I agree with you. It's just that it's you know. I've been fortunate enough, even with the amount of podcasting I've done, but even then it's like 10 years ago, 30,000 subs would be, you'd be like, oh man, you're cooking. Exactly. Now I'm very happy, proud to have 30. I just crossed 30,000. I'm also like, I need to hit 100 or I need to hit 200 and you got to do it in a semi-organic, semi-promotional push, you know, and then like you're always, I agree. And it's a grind. Because it's about feeding the machine. Yeah. And then are you feeding which machine? YouTube machine, the Instagram machine, the TikTok machine? Yeah. Everyone's like, you should be on TikTok. I was on TikTok. It's like doesn't move, you know, but you got to keep going with it. And maybe it will hit. Maybe, you know, and I agree. I think the perseverance of it is whether you're going to make it or not, or whether you get that like the dam finally breaks aspect. Everyone thinks it's going to be in the first year. Like, oh, I've been posting for a year now. It's like, it ain't going to be like that. Like it's, you know, you've been at it 10, 12 years, you know, I've been at it 10 years. Like it's, or not podcasting, but the career. Yeah. Careers in general, you know.
I'd be curious how you feel about this. I think now I'm at a place where it's like, I do the things that you're supposed to do. Like, I don't have management, like in a lot of artists in entertainment will have like managers, agents, all this stuff. I don't have any of that right now. I'm doing it all on my own. So I do like, you know, I'm like, all right, we're going to post on YouTube. We're going to do Instagram. We're going to do TikTok. Those are the big three right now. I pay attention to other stuff that's going on, but I also have learned it's like, yes, I need to post. I need to do whatever, but I kind of I needed to shift. I still struggle with this from being results oriented. I would wonder if you feel the same way. I might feel differently because, like, for me, I have under 500 YouTube subs, which you should subscribe to my YouTube right now.
Yeah, like and subscribe.
You know, I don't even have 10K followers on Instagram, all that sort of stuff. I can't really control that. I can control like putting out good content, right? I can control making a special I believe in, right? And then chopping that up and putting it out. I can control having a podcast, Troll Hole Podcast, like Instagram, and like believing in what we're doing with that. And then hopefully that gets people to shows. And like, I had to, because it was driving me insane. I'd be like, I don't know what to tell you. This is one of my best jokes. And this is one of my worst jokes. And this went viral. And, you know, maybe and also now people don't follow the way they used to. They don't subscribe the way they used to. So it's like, I was too result oriented and less process oriented, and I'm working on shifting that back to be like, just make the best version, truest version to yourself of whatever you're trying to put out there, and then once it's out there, it's consumed how it's consumed. Yeah. If they love it, they love it. If they hate it, they hate it. But if I'm going to go insane, I want it to be about the process of the thing. Yeah. I want it to be about like my vision for something. I don't want it to be like, you know, chode head 420 is like, I don't know, this guy seems gay or whatever. Because honestly, at a certain point, what I've learned from my podcast, which is like, anything you say is good. I don't care if you hate me. And you hate me enough to comment on it. That's awesome. Yeah. I love that. Yeah. If you love me and you comment, thank you so much. I actually really appreciate it. And then like, imagine if you love me, you comment, and you come to a show. Like, that's people. What matters. That's like what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to build a sustainable group of people who will be interested in the shit I'm doing for the next 10 years. So I can keep doing this, and I can keep making people laugh and entertaining them and whatever, you know, like it's not as much about blowing up on TikTok because, I can't remember if I said this on this or not, but we were talking before and I was like, I've worked with people who have had, 250,000 followers and the room is a quarter full. That's tough. That's a different kind of mental thing that you have to deal with because you're like, okay, you like me online, but you're not coming to see me. My job is to sell tickets to get, and then make sure you have a good time when you come see me. Yeah.
And I agree with you. I think that process is definitely because I've moved the needle, but also it's one of those things where like we've talked about before, like I've had one episode go insane viral. I've had two now. Yeah. And then clips go viral. And then the next episode, which is an amazing episode. Like we talked about a guy who's a doctor and he's worked in Pakistan and out in Burma in the Civil War doing jungle clinics. Awesome. My buddy's dad.
I should not be on this podcast.
One
time I got drunk in New York and I saw a homeless guy hit another dude with a board.
Which is awesome. But it's like the Burma Civil War. It's the same thing. Yeah. And he's like, and I'm like, this is an amazing episode. And I knew it too. I was like, it's not gonna. And I was like, maybe it'll get 1,000. Like if I cross 1,000 with 30, like kind of like what you're talking about, 250,000 and a quarter of the room shows up, 30,000 subs. Yeah. I don't break 1,000 views. And that's like, and you can't focus on the results. You do it like we've talked, and I've talked to you before we did the podcast. Like, do I do it because I love it? Yeah. But I also do it. I'm a little bit of results. I don't want to lie completely. I am somewhat results oriented because my wife is like, we gotta, I'm flying people out. Yeah. We spent money on this. Like, not say make it work, but like sense. let's try to make it work in that direction. But I also, dude, I just love sitting here talking. Like, and I was like, well, hopefully this gets a few hundred views on my 30,000 subs, But you're a comedian, and on that, and mine is like veteran algorithm.
But that's also the thing too, is like you're not trying right now, at least you're not trying to drive people to a live event, right? Yeah. You're trying to grow your audience, grow your footprint, and hopefully that's like a backing. So then it's like when you're like, hey, I have this idea for $100 million film. Look at all these people behind me. Maybe it's one, I have this group of people, or two, it's like, hey, you guys are here. I need your help. I need your support. Maybe like you do a Kickstarter or something. Right? Yeah. So like that does make sense. Like. And you're right. When you get the wives involved and you're like, you are spending time and money and like, for me, it's almost like, if I'm spending all this time apart from my wife, I'm gone. So like starting now, I'm gone almost every weekend, or like I'm working probably every weekend until like December. And you want it to pay off, like, but you also know you can't control it. So I like, it's nice to think about having a partner in this where my wife is like, she probably believes in me sometimes more than I believe in myself, where I'm just like, shit, I guess we have to make this work. It makes me think about that sort of stuff too, where I'm like, I don't know, like other people seem to believe in what I'm doing, and that helps me get through in the hard times too. And like, I know you have a wife who believes in what you're doing too, which is fucking awesome.
Well, it's also because you're good at it. That's why they believe you do. Because my wife is the same way. Like, and by the way, when I went to film school, I actually had not a freak out, but the first like week I was there, I was like, I've built this up in my head for 13 years. I don't even know if I'm fucking good at this. Like, I don't even know if I'm good at, I made short films in high school. Yeah. I haven't done anything since then. And I edited some stuff like montage videos that were decent for my combat unit, but you know what I mean? Like, so there was about like a week that I'm like, am I even good at this, and like, but in my wife, I remember she was like, cause dude, when you're out dating, we're all dating at that time. it was like, what do you do? Well, I make movies. So either girls thought you were making porn, or they're like,
accurate.
Oh yeah. They probably would have made more money.
Dad watches. Not accurate. Never mind.
I was ahead of OnlyFans. But it was like, they were like, what? And I'm like, movies. And then they're like, what, you psycho? Like, are you going moving to LA? You know, because it's like, you want to direct films. And I remember my wife saw my work and she's like, okay, you are good at I know, like, I watch your stuff. You are funny. You have a great special.
Thanks, man.
Your wife thinks that. And it, you know, because I'm with you, man. Sometimes it's like, it's tough. It's a grind. Like, it's a grind. Like, you know, especially myself, such the bar. Like, I'm even with you. You're like, what are your guys' bar now? Like, my bar is one, the next goal, or the next really, really big goal, because I have a few. But
let's talk about it.
like
I wanna hear this.
$1 million, like $1 million film, $2 million film. Then it's like 10 million, and then you work your way up. Eventually, hopefully, 100 million is like, for me. I don't expect to be overnight.
Yeah.
But like right now, I'm working at Vet TV, so my next goal is to build out Vet TV streaming services. I am a showrunner. I have my own stuff, building out their catalog, and honestly, the YouTube channel I'm doing now is kind of helping that. One, I want to do it. I want to do this. This is my passion, but it does help in my way of YouTube is the best turnover rate for driving traffic into specials or into streaming services.
Yeah.
So if you're watching YouTube and you see an ad, you're like, yeah, I'll go check that out. Not Instagram is like almost zero.
Yeah.
So like I said, we were talking about that turnover rate, or like the translation rate of like, oh, we have a $200,000 or 200,000 person following, and you advertise to go to Vet TV or any streaming service. They're like, or even YouTube. 800 views. You know?
Yeah.
So, but I mean, like, what's for you guys? I mean, what's comedians? Like, what's your, like, is it Netflix specials? Is it, you know, I don't know, like just paid road gigs or something, you know, like, is it, you know, what is your guys' like, you know,
it's different for people. Yeah. I can speak for myself. So like, I think, there's probably not a comedian who'd be like, yeah, I'm going to turn down a Netflix special. Like everyone would obviously want to do that.
I was listening to something. I know people were talking shit on him.
Yeah.
You know, they're like, everyone's doing Netflix special. I was like, well, you would take it too, because I'm sure it's a decent payout. You know?
It's weird. That's what's tough too is, man, this comedian Pete Lee has this awesome clip where he breaks down how much people actually make from some of this stuff. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times you self-produce your special. I self-produce mine. I spent, I mean, let's just put the number out there. I'm going to say $8,000 on my special. Mm-hmm. 500 of that was licensing a song, so that's on me. But other than that, like, you know, renting cameras, paying people, I make some of that money back in ticket sales and all that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. And I knew that was going to happen, but like,
and looks great. Like as every other special is.
Well, shout out to my director like DP Jeff Stonick. He's incredible. He's a former comedian, kind of comedian still, but he would say more. He's the most fucking artistic. His vision is just so incredible that like I saw him. We met at like a comedy festival, started just following each other on Instagram. He'd be posting stuff, and I was like, visually, this is more interesting than any movie I've seen this year. Mm-hmm. Like this is awesome. Like, what is this? Mm-hmm. And then when I started thinking about doing something for myself, I was like, okay, that's what I want. I think I want this kind of style. We both like some of the same comedians, and then I just hit Jeff up. He's never directed a comedy special. I really believe he's going to be like the next guy who you're like, oh, that's the guy who did Ben's special. Like, and it'll be like famous comedian. Like he's working on some other comedians who are like just put out next Netflix special stuff. He's on their YouTube page and doing all that sort of stuff. So I stand by him. If you're a comedian listening to this, work with Jeff now, because you won't be able to afford him in 5 years.
Is he a local guy?
He's from Denver, actually.
Okay.
So, but it was like, I believed in him and what he was doing. He believed in what I was doing. And we were like, let's work on this and let's grassroots put it together. So the special is like one of the first things for me. So as far as goals, because I've been doing this long enough where I was like, you know, hopefully someone will ask me. But then like the pandemic changed the comedy landscape a lot. And it's like, okay, people aren't really asking for as much stuff from people like me anymore. So like, you know, it was people who before you'd be like, you would only see them doing Netflix. Now they're doing like YouTube specials and stuff. And you're like, well, I'm not going to wait around. Let's get this chapter on wax and then I can move forward. Right. So my goals, I would say the special is number one. There's also a comedy album that's coinciding that'll have like a couple more tracks on it. It comes out September 12th.
Make sure you get the date right.
Yeah. September 12th. because, I didn't want to be disrespectful. So this is September 12th. and
could have got a 2-for-1 discount.
Right. Jesus. That's great. That's really good.
You can have that one.
Yeah, thanks. Perfect podcast you're talking
I'll
about.
clip it and it just cuts to the 9/11 playing and go.
This guy's using 9/11 to promote his special. That's what you want? But yeah, so there's an audio album that's coming out a month after the YouTube thing comes out. And now it's like, I want to turn that into, I want to get it on Sirius. I'm giving you the full granular breakdown of what this is. Mm-hmm. I want to get my comedy on Sirius XM. Okay. Mm-hmm. They will take tracks and play them. And if you get played a certain amount, you can get money from that. That's like passive income. Mm-hmm. I want to make some passive income from some of this shit. Okay. Yeah. I also have written I've written 2 graphic novels. Yeah. One is called Hello, My Name is Poop. It's like a kid's book. It's about a kid who gets poop-based superpowers. Honestly, I should have brought one for you. I forgot about it. I'll give you one.
That's awesome.
And then the next one I wrote is with the rapper Redman.
Wait, you wrote it with him?
Yeah, we co-wrote it. So he wrote.
That's awesome.
It sounds cool. It's cool, but it wasn't like we were in the same room doing it. I was like, "Hey Reggie, what about this?" But
his name's Reggie.
His name's Reggie Noble.
See, I don't even know that. That's how close. Yeah, I know him as Redman.
Yeah, I know him from that guy from the emails that doesn't answer all the questions. No, that's not true. But he has this album called Muddy Waters. He had this album, Muddy Waters. It's like one of his best albums that came out. Everybody loves it. And then he did a follow-up this last year called Muddy Waters 2, which was critically acclaimed. Everybody loved it. With the album, he wrote a short film, right? And then with the short film, they're like, we want to adapt that into a graphic novel. So he wrote the short film, and then I did the graphic novel adaptation for it.
How'd you do that? How'd you get connected with that?
It's the same people for the second book with him that I worked with for the first book.
So is this published then?
This comes out. So this is the thing with artists. Sometimes they push stuff back and you don't really know. Allegedly, this should come out this week from what I'm seeing. Mm-hmm. It's available for pre-order. It's called Muddy Waters 2. You can check it out now. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it at bookstores, whatever.
But did you do the artistry or did you?
I just did the words.
Okay.
Unfortunately, God, I think I would be so much cooler if I could draw. But I am got to be one of the worst artists I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, it's truly bad. It's like, oh, when you were a kid, did they just hit your hands with hammers? Is that what it was? Is that why you're so bad at this? And it's like, no, I'm just untalented. But so that comes out soon. So what I want to do with these 2, I'm going to Comic-Con in New York in October.
Nice.
I'm going to do that. And then I want to start going, when I go on the road with people, let's say I'm on the road Thursday through Saturday. On Wednesdays, I want to go to like bookstores, probably particularly, honestly, like Black-owned bookstores, because I feel like that's just like an interesting. I want to meet these people. I want to see the other creators who are kind of like me, who are doing some of these things, or some of the places that support this stuff. And like I'll do like a Wednesday headlining show, book signing thing or something, and then do the rest of the comedy. Like that's kind of my goal for January on, is to do that. And then long term, I want to do theater. Like I get to open for people in theaters now, and it's really fun, and it's a lot of money for them. And I want to be the guy who's like making the money off this theater. I want to bring a bunch of people together, and I want to do like the best comedy clubs in the country. Mm-hmm. And more than all of that, like the number one thing is like I've done my, I did my special. I want to see how much further I can push it. I want to do more jokes. I want to do darker jokes. I want to just talk more about, I feel like I'm very autobiographical or whatever. I talk a lot about my life, but like life has a lot of serious shit that comes up into it. Mm-hmm. And I've been joking about a lot more of that stuff because I feel like I have a pretty dark sense of humor. Mm-hmm. And I think people who listen to this would probably appreciate some of the darker jokes that I have. Because like, people who've seen shit and done shit and been through shit, like can laugh at a lot of stuff. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to like reach some of those people and just see what happens if I go a little bit darker. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of like, that's a lot, but like, that's kind of the timeline that I'm looking at right now.
Yeah. That's awesome. I mean, like you said, the theater, like you're, especially setting your goals with the theaters. Is there a way, I won't say like strategically like do it, you know what I mean? Like do people attach themselves to, say, like I said, you're doing theaters, but you're doing it as openers, you know, like how do those people get maneuvered in, or is it just kind of this thing when your time is up, hey, you're good enough?
When you get big enough, when you start moving enough tickets. So it's like, I think it's like this. It's like, okay, you start out at smaller clubs. All right, you're doing great. You're filling up smaller clubs. They'll be like, all right, why don't we add either extra shows or extra days, right? Yeah. And then if you're doing good clubs and you're selling those out and they're doing the same thing, eventually you're like, well, I don't want to be there Wednesday through Sunday.
Yeah.
You know, I want to be there. What if I can make, you know, as much money just doing it Thursday, doing a theater Thursday and a theater Saturday somewhere. So like, it's just kind of consolidating a lot of that instead of being like spreading your whole week out at a club. You're like, you can all see me in this one space for like slightly more money, and it'll be a good time. So it's working your way up. You got to get people out to come see you. I think that's really what it is. Mm-hmm. So everything I do is to increase, like, actually, I kind of forgot to say this, but locally too, like I live in Minneapolis now, you know, after New York, after, you know, just whatever, like I'm back in Minneapolis, and I want to make a footprint locally. I want to have a show, probably like a monthly show, where people are like, oh shit, Ben's show is this month. We got to go to this, right? Mm-hmm. And just to have a space where I can work on new material. I can show you my funny friends. I can bring people in from out of town maybe, you know, if it's the right time, right place, whatever. And you get to see a killer show that you feel like you could only see in New York or LA. But the way, like, you kind of inspire me in the way where you're like, yeah, I'm flying people out to do this podcast, whatever. Yeah, I'm like, yeah, why can't I fly out a great headliner for a monthly show, have some awesome Minneapolis comedians, and then maybe I host it, so I have to force myself to have new fun material every month, whatever. And like that generates some money too. But then also it's like a cool thing in Minneapolis where people don't feel like they have to go to the Comedy Store or the Comedy Cellar or the Mothership in Austin to see some cool ass shit. You know, like I want to bring that to Minneapolis too. I feel like there's, in the Twin Cities metro, there's like 4 million people or whatever. And I'm like, if I can tap into even a small percentage of that to come to a show every month to get an experience they can't have anywhere else, that seems like that would be awesome.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I mean, like, I remember doing my cousin, again, this was in that same time frame. I don't think you weren't doing, we just went to go to see opener or whatever you call it, open mics.
Open mic, yeah.
And like, it's rough, but you know,
brother.
I think it was well, I mean, and like I know again at the time it was in film school, and my cousin Laura was like, hey, and I think she was on a date or something. That I think I brought Amanda or something, you know, and you or it might have just been me and her, and we're just grabbing drinks and watching the stand. But she loved doing that. And I was like, oh, this is really cool. I didn't even know like the scene kind of existed.
Oh my God, yeah.
You know, and it's like, well, yeah, there's scenes everywhere, but you know, it's like one of those things where like, I think, I mean, I wasn't going super into it, you know, but it's one of those things that like, oh, that's pretty awesome. And I remember going to like, I don't know, when I'm younger, you think of that younger crowd a little bit like, oh yeah, let's go watch a show. Like, let's go see a comedian, or the open micers, we go get beers and like, I feel for I mean, like you could just see people like shaking, you know, and they're like, yeah. And they just hit their notes and it's tough. Like, I can't be like, man, you suck, you know, but when
you're a basketball player, you get to practice free throws in the gym. You know what I mean? By yourself. You don't have everybody watching. Eventually, maybe it's like your teammates are watching, like, come on, Kyle, you can do it, right? If you want to practice stand-up comedy, you have to get in front of people. You have to go up. Yeah. And like, you need to figure out who you are. It's like, yeah, you might piss down your leg a little bit. You know, you might say some crazy stuff you've never said before, and people are going to be like,
black out.
You might black out. Literally, I've seen people faint. I've seen people not remember what they say. I've seen people get into fights. I've seen people throw temper tantrums. Like, you don't know what it is until you get in there. So it's like, open mics serve a purpose, but it is brutal. You're absolutely right. It's tough to watch.
And I agree with you. I think with that flying out, I think that's a great idea, because that's something that, and I think just from my own experience, like, you're committed, you know, like, and I told my wife and it's just and myself, like, I'm committing, like these people are coming out and we're doing this. Cause you know, I did the podcast before, the Nagelbear podcast, and I did 10 episodes. It was pre-COVID. and it was fun, but it's sometimes things just, they're meant to do. There's timing.
Yeah.
And that was not the time for me to, it's almost like that should have been when we were living together.
Yeah,
Mango Bear podcast should have been not a media avenue for me to grow.
Sure.
It should have been when we were all partying together.
Yeah, actually,
in 2014, 16.
Great idea.
We should have done our own podcast. That would have made sense in the era, and then growing it, and you'd be like, oh, cool, now we have a bunch of followers, you know.
Yeah.
But doing it when I was like 31 or 32, it was fun, but it's like, I don't say no one wants to hear you and your friends bullshit, but you're kind of like, that era I think is a little bit over. Like you kind of have a lane, or you have, you know what I mean? You have a genre, you have a lane, and you have a certain goal per se. I mean, like even comedians that talk into you know, the just them solo ranting. Yeah. There's a goal there. There's a reason why they're doing it. They're riffing. Yeah. They want to get people to come back every week or every other day. Yeah. To boost views and subs and stuff like that, you know?
And people feel like in comedy and entertainment, I would say, you've kind of mentioned this where it's like you have your lane, right? Or you have people want to like box you in. Yeah. So it's easier to pitch someone or promote someone if it's like, yeah, what are the like three things about you that we can just quickly tell people? Mm-hmm. So it's quick, digestible, whatever. I have a hard time with that because like I feel like I'm so many different things. Yeah, yeah. I hate being boxed in. I hate being whatever. But like I do think sometimes like it's nice to be able to quickly be like, okay, this is how. Honestly, like my friend James said this to me once, and it was like a joke, but I'm also like, this is probably the funniest and most accurate way to describe me. If you're like, okay, like what's your special about? Be like fat, black, adopted. Like there you go. That's like all it is. And I'm like. It's weird to say that, but I'm like, damn, having something that succinct is so helpful. Mm-hmm. Like that's something I'm trying to do too, is just to be like, all right, here what are things? Let's talk about this lane. Let's talk about this lane. Let's find people in this lane. Mm-hmm. And then ideally bring them all together and see what happens. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. Sometimes I am like, I don't know, does anyone want to hear this? But I'm like, what I haven't really done is specifically targeted stuff at those audiences, really. I've been like, hey, I'm a lot of different things, and if you're any of these things, come check out a show. Mm-hmm. But now I kind of want to be a little bit more like, okay, like I want to talk more about this experience in my life. I want to talk more about this experience or this experience, and that's kind of what hopefully the next year or so will be, just to see what happens.
And you have a podcast with a buddy, right? Comedian.
Yeah, my buddy Mike Lester, very funny comedian, one of the funniest people I know. It's called Troll Hole, and what we do is we have usually comedians, but also just people that you should honestly. We'll love to have you on. But
100%.
We have people who are in the public eye, and we just talk about the weird shit that people say to you, like online or with comedians. Sometimes it works in real life, and just like the amount, like every week, there isn't an episode that goes by where he and I don't have someone in our lives who are just like saying the most asinine things, right? So that's how we just start it, and then later we go into like people's comment sections oftentimes and be like. You know, you filter out the stuff where it's like, hey, you know, jump off a bridge. Every time you have a woman on, you're like, all right, we're just not going to go anything. You got a deeper level than the surface stuff. But sometimes there's one time we had this comedian Amber Preston on, hilarious, so funny. It has one person show called Fern where she talks about infertility and loss, and it's like this deep whatever stuff, and we're talking about that. And then she's on our podcast, and we look at one of the comments, and this guy is like, hey, I don't know if you remember me, but we went on a date one time, and like it seems like we both are better off not being together or something like that. And it's just like, what made you post that? Like, I want to call that guy and be like, what were you thinking when this happened? Whereas like full name, like just giving her enough detail to be like, oh yeah, I totally remember this guy. And you know, they just reach out and they say this crazy stuff, and it's so fun. I love it.
That's funny you mentioned that, because on the podcast, my first one that went viral, it was one of my first like, I mean, we're only like 19. I'm only 19 in. Yeah. You know, like this is number 18. That's wild. 18 or 19. And I've gotten better. It's like, especially if you only do 2 a month. Yeah. The way I speak. Yeah. Like I try not to say all the time. or like when I'm like, I want to acknowledge you. So I've like learned like.
See, that's funny that you're saying that, because I do everything you just said. I do that. Yeah. Yeah. I still. See, it's hard not to. Because you're still having the conversation.
Yeah. And it's hard. I think the separation of what an interview or a conversation. So like we're having a conversation right now. I've done like the interview type style podcast where it's just like I ask the questions and give a 10-minute
Yeah.
which is great. And I love it. But there was like, dude, the comment sections just ripped me apart of my buddy Joe Hahn. Because I was like, yeah. Yeah. And Joe, it was just natural, but it was like episode number like 6, dude, they ripped me apart in the comments. And it's like, who's this idiot that, and they go deep, like, and it was funny, but I'm also 38 years old. So like, I take the positive stuff. I'm like, oh, cool. And then some of the negative, I'm like, yeah, he's right. I won't do the, Cause then I did listen to it back. I'm like, that is annoying as shit. Like me doing that. Now, some people it doesn't bother them, but it did bother me. I'm like, okay, that is, like, that's a good fix. And then I did another one, and it's always, hey, the one with Brent that went really viral. And they were like, let Brent talk. I'm not here to listen to you. And I'm like, and part of me was like, I'm not going to reply. But I was like, dude, this is a conversation. Like, we're two very highly decorated vets talking. And I think sometimes people forget that. But it's the comment section's funny because I'm like, who's posting? But then I have people who are super positive and they're like, this affected me. And I'm like, this is like a therapy for them. And like, I try to respond, but sometimes they just go, I have like 5,000 comments or I was like, I can't get to all of them, but I'll glance by. I'm like, oh, they just find something and they want to get they just want to get it out there. Like they just want someone to read or listen it, like it's almost not a cry for help, but it's just like, I just want someone to read this. And if someone replies,
damn,
you're not alone. Cause someone will do that. And I'll reply like, thank you so much for subscribing. Or some guys be like, I served in 95 to 98. You guys are great. And I'll be like, I love you, and sometimes it's just, people just want to be, just want to be heard.
Because it is hard for me. I'm trying to think of like, I did this recently and I had so much consternation about it. I saw this reel on Instagram and it was this woman and she was like, hey, I did my 30th birthday party. It was a boat party and everyone had to dress up like a different woman or something, right? Mm-hmm. And it was like, I'm not kidding, it was like a 2-minute long reel or something. And it was all these women getting on a boat dressed like Taylor Swift and Ellen or whatever, And then, but they were all these white ladies, and I just couldn't help, for whatever reason, I couldn't help myself. And I was like, not a Beyonce in the bunch. I put that down because I was like, that's how my brain works, is like obviously racial stuff. I just notice whatever. And I was like, who the fuck am I? Like, why am I commenting on this random? I'm like, that's embarrassing. I was like, you should delete that. I was like, no, leave it up because it's embarrassing. Like, if people come and be like, why are you ruining our fun little reel? I deserve whatever hate I get for that. But normally I'm like, I don't understand why people do this. I don't know why people comment. Because for me, it's like, I'm probably in my worst headspace if I'm commenting on something. But you're right. There are people who just want to feel heard, or people who, this happens a lot in comedy, where they're like, it'll be like, you suck, this is bad, whatever. And then be like, oh man, I worked really hard on that. That hurts my feelings. They're like, oh, I didn't think you'd see this. Like, they have no idea like that people might actually see what they write.
Yeah, and like I said, 95% of my stuff's been positive. Yeah. So it's just like they just want to, now granted, it's the veteran community. It's obviously more vet heavy. Yeah. But it's also like guys that are just like, that was the initial, one of the big, or I shouldn't say big pillars, but one of the bigger reasons I started mine. And I was going to do it, but the other one was I wanted to get guys like myself on there, are infantry guys that had seen a lot of combat, or guys that are not special operations, because those guys get all the love. It's all the, and ironically, a lot of my guests have been that. Yeah. But like we've talked strategically, for me strategically, I was like, well, these guys are my buddies. I want to have them on, but I also want to build a base so guys don't feel afraid to come on it's a legit podcast, because sometimes even guys that are like no following or whatever, it's like, dude, I don't care. Like, you were in Ramadi, I want to hear your story. Mm-hmm.
It's compelling.
It's compelling. Yeah,
like,
exactly.
People need to know these things.
Well, I also want to capture it. There's a few different other platforms that are kind of doing the same thing, as they're capturing the stories almost for like a historical sense. And I want to do that too, but I also want to do it because I want to get other guys' stories out there, because we've had the Tim Kennedy situation, because we've had now this John McPhee situation, which is, I won't get into it, but like that stuff is like, as of today, is pretty shocking. And so, yeah, it's, I agree. And I think there's guys though, and there's people that are like, dude, I had this happen to the battle. No one knows about this battle, but it was my unit. We did this thing. We raided this place in Baghdad during the invasion. I was like, send me your info. We'd love to hear it, and then hear anything back. But I think that almost kind of triggers people to be like, oh yeah, well, maybe I can throw something out there and maybe they will see it, or maybe they will reach out, and
this is a good community to like give people a platform for.
Yeah,
I think it's great.
100%.
I think there's so
and
many
you'll
people
find
not saying
audience.
shit that
You'll find an audience.
Exactly.
It's
I'd rather hear this than
Yeah.
a lot of stuff. I go on podcasts and I'm like, I don't know that anyone needs to hear this, but yeah, it's cool that you have this.
But that's what I'm saying is like, I want to know you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Like, it's like, that is fascinating to me.
Yeah.
Like, and I have, you know, my when I was trying to figure out what, because I didn't want to be the Ethan Nagel show. Because I'm like, people are like, just call it the Ethan Nagel show. I was like, yeah, but it's too egotistical. Be like, well, it's your show. And I'm like, well, yeah, I know, you know, like, or like the Ethan Nagel podcast or whatever. And but I was like, I wanted something that like, I liked Into the Breach. Obviously, it's a little more warfare, but I was like life, war, and film. I mean, that's literally everything. That's everything. That's my tag is life, war, and film. And honestly, too, just like, you know, I being a comedian, but also too, like, I look at like, I don't know, like even with my parents, you're kind of like, dude, man, like, or even our, you know, parents' generation, or I always feel like maybe because we just grew up in the 80s and 90s, like I feel like that in itself was like a great task, or, you know, or at least in my view, like the people we grew on were like poor, and everyone was like, your parents were just working really hard, and you could tell they were, and they, you know what I mean? It's like, it's just like the fact that we just kind of all made it out, like was like a plus, you know, like, you know, they you know, I don't know, that's my opinion, but I don't know. I feel like that's, everyone wants, you know, I think doing the job of being just like a really good parent is like, dude, that's in itself is like a hard task and an amazing task in itself. And sometimes that is like the breach for some people. It's just like, my parents were shitheads. They were crack addicts. I'm just trying to, you know, fix that, you know, break the loop.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Shit. Yeah. I mean, that's the shit. That's the type of shit I want to talk about. Like, that's legitimately like the type of stuff I want to like talk about and like write about. Like I just have this idea of just, I want to write like a film about, it's more metaphorical. Like it's not so on the nose, but like about this idea of like the generational trauma that people carry. Right. Mm-hmm. Where, dude, like in my family, like, I think of I was just telling someone about this. So my parents, I don't talk to my dad anymore, but so first of all, I'm adopted. So that's already a step, right? Mm-hmm. So there's a group of people that I grew up just knowing that like, there are people who are like, for whatever reason, my birth mother was just like, yeah, we're good. So one of the first things I ever learned was like, even your mom cannot want you. I'm not trying to be like, oh, I'm so sad. I'm
but I know what you mean, though.
So that's something that's a new barrier for me to like work through. Any relationship I get through, you're like, anybody can leave at any time, right? Mm-hmm. And then adopted family. Eventually, my adoptive father and I, like, we just went down different paths. Mm-hmm. He needed a lot of help with some stuff, wouldn't get it, and it was just like it was basically like it was us, the family moment, or you keep going down this path, and he's like, I'm choosing this path, which you're like, oh shit. Like, I didn't know you could, like, that's a different form of a thing where I was like, I mean, dog, you paid for me. Like, you literally spent, like, you could have had like a boat, but you got a kid, and you're like, fuck it, I'm cutting my losses, I'm going the other direction. Mm-hmm. And that's always so interesting. That sort of stuff is interesting to me. And like, okay, if I have kids, like, am I going to pass that down? Am I going to have weird stuff there? And I work on that, go to therapy, whatever, all that shit. Mm-hmm. But then I think about, now that I'm older, I now know more about my parents and like their situation. My mom came from like a fucking nightmare childhood. Mm-hmm. And my dad, in another way, he's not going to listen, so whatever, I don't give it. So I'll say it.
He's
like,
a big fan.
Yeah, that would be fucking, he's like, hey, I heard you on
Into the Breach with Ethan. I'm a big fan. Follow him on Instagram.
That would be awesome, actually. If this is the podcast that reconnects me with my father, that'd be incredible. But so when he was a kid, he never told me this. I just found this out probably.
So you've contacted, or sorry,
So we stopped talking. It was post college. I think you met
your biological father.
I haven't met. Sorry, this is my adoptive father. Biological father never met. Biological mother never met. Birth mother Jesus Christ, adopted mother still have a relationship with. Mm-hmm. Adopted father don't. So if you're looking at just the statistics, not great for me with parents, mm-hmm. but. My mom and I are good, right? Mm-hmm. So during the pandemic, my mom started telling me about all this stuff about like her life and how some of it you're like, you kind of know, but you're like, you don't know the depths of like just mental, physical abuse and all this stuff. And you're like, holy shit. And then she's talking about her mom, my grandma, how she was mentally, physically abused and all this shit. And then like, I think at a certain point, her parents or great grandparent, like my grandma's parents or her parents, whatever, or grandparents, I think they're immigrants. So you're like, you think about all this stuff, like German, like whatever. You're like, oh, it all makes sense. It's a waterfall flowing down of all this stuff. That's why you were with us the way you were, whatever. And I'm like, now that I know this, I kind of want to like stop the cycle. You know, I want to stop the whatever. A thing I learned about my dad was that when he was a kid, so his dad died in a fire. And so he was it was like he was burning brush. So this would be my grandpa, who I never met because he died. Like a coward, he died before me. Just kidding. He died in this brush fire. And my dad was like supposed to be out, adoptive father was supposed to be out there with him. And like, I guess ended up just hanging out with a friend too long or something. And then his mom, my grandma, who would see every holiday, hang out with all the time. She's since passed, whatever, and all this stuff. But the one thing she told him that I guess I never knew, but I learned 5 years ago, was that when his dad died, my grandma goes to my dad, hey, this is your fault. You were supposed to be there. And he never told me that.
Yeah.
And I was like, and now I'm like, yeah, no wonder you were drinking and you're depressed and all this stuff. You don't know how to deal with this. You don't know your lot in life. You don't know how you want to proceed. It's like your parents said the most fucked up thing you could probably ever. I couldn't think of a more fucked up thing to say to a kid. Mm-hmm. And I just didn't know that until it was far too late for like our relationship, you know? And like when you're talking about, going into the breach, being parenting or whatever, I see you with your kids and I'm like, wow, what a beautiful, you and Amanda are awesome parents. Like even in the small slice that I'm getting, just, you can tell like when parents are frustrated, how they interact with their kids or like how they interact with their kids' frustration. I've been around enough families, enough kids to know. And it's like, it's awesome to see what you're doing. And I'm like, you're right. It is crazy to think how different the way you talk to your daughter when she's not doing anything wrong. She's just like, I don't want to leave. I'm having a fun time. I don't want to go to bed or whatever. You know what you did different than what my parents would have done? You go, hey, we have to talk about, I know, but like, but tomorrow will be fun. Like, you're going to have, my parents would have been like, get upstairs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, same. Yeah. I mean, I do get to that. There are points I do get to that point where I'm just like, you need to get upstairs.
Yeah.
I do the low, like, get upstairs. You get upstairs right now. Yeah. But that's, but I agree with you on that aspect of like, I always consider myself fortunate because I joined the Marine Corps. And everyone was broken homes. Like it was like that, like opposite flip where you go and they're like, "Jesus, everybody's parents like divorced."
That's what comedy is. Honestly, that is a lot of what comedy is. That's so funny.
Everyone was at one point. We were all gathered in sniper platoon, and everyone's like, "Yeah, my dad's a dick." Divorced my mom. And it got real quiet, and I was sitting there. I go, "Well, I don't know about you guys, but my parents love me."
That's so funny.
And there was a lot of "fuck you, Nagel, man. Whatever. You have a happy home,"
That's so funny.
But I think for me, like I said, like that parenting. But I don't know. I kind of relate a lot of this to like film. Obviously, how my parents raised me, but also like looking at films and like other people of what you want to be as a parent, and also like what not to do. Yeah. Like that scares, you watch like movies from like the 1920s. They're like, I'm going to beat you, son. Like you don't want to be that dad. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like I'm an alcoholic and I'm going, even though you think it's a blatant, like don't be like that. But like, my buddy Joe, who the one who went viral is Navy SEAL. His mom died of cancer when he was like 2 or 3. And his dad was a little bit of an alcoholic, drank a lot, but he tried keeping the family together. And like, he was like tearing up time. And I'm like, I'm sitting, because it's like, it was a shit dad. He just, it was the 80s. He's a mechanic. Yeah. Like he would be like, they'd shut the gas off and he'd go outside and like clip the gas. You know what I mean? You're talking about a man who's trying to keep the family together. Yeah. And like, that's almost like harder. You'd rather have him be like, man, I wish he was abusive and just kicked us off. It's like, because he's trying, and they had like CPS still took the kids, because they just weren't like bathing and stuff like that. And like, they were kind of off on their own, but they were still going to school. he's like, honestly, the childhood I thought was pretty good. We had a Nintendo. He's like, I don't know how we afforded it, but we managed to get it one year. And like, but it was like heartbreaking. And then they had to get up thrown in the foster home since he was like 5 or 6, like all the way through, and they're like, anyways, but no, I agree. Like, you don't say breaking the cycle, but also just, I don't know, like, I guess like I've had enough time to think about, like, what kind of parent do I want to be, and I still get frustrated and stuff like that.
Of course,
but like,
how can you not? You're a human being, and like, and especially if like, what's nice about today, I feel like, is like, first of all, I'm invading your space around like bedtime. So if I'm not understanding of like, these kids are going to need to be put down, like whatever, I'm an asshole. That's crazy for me to not, if I was not accommodating to that. But two, it's like, there's one thing where it's like, hey, we have a little time, like I can be more gentle. It's too, like, if you're like, hey, we need to go right now, like it is harder when you're like trying to be like, no, we need to go, like we have to get in here. Come on, shut up. Here's your movie, whatever.
Well, but that does happen too. I'd be like on a video call, I'm like, just go. Like I'll be like, watch the movie, and I'll be like, Finley, and then she's like, I'm like, something like she's trying to cry, and I'll put like the video call. I'm like, it sounds good. Let's do the edit that way. And Finley, go sit down.
She's incredible.
I know, she's great. She's it's awesome. And again, it's one of those things where you're like, oh man, like I just hope I don't, as every parent, it's kind of like, I don't fuck them up, but you're also like the same time too. Like, I feel like, I don't know, maybe I don't know, I'm saying I'm too observant or whatever, but it's like one of those things where like, like expectations, like me and my wife were talking about this a little bit, like rich people. I was like, when they like, you see the movies or whatever, and they're wearing their white cloth, they're in the Hamptons or whatever, but like their problems aren't real problems, but they are to them because that's their society. So like, if you're not a doctor, or if you could be a billionaire, but if you didn't become a doctor, or something. Right. And part of me was kind of like, she's like, yeah, I don't know the society. And I was like, well, part of me was also like, yeah, but I kind of respect it a little bit because there's a standard to be held slightly, not saying it to that extreme, but there is like expectations, I'm saying, like instilling, not saying for my kids by any means, but I mean, to that level, but I'm like expectations of like, maybe just stuff that we were expected of, like, hey, you're going to finish high school. You're going to, you will hold down. Like my parents are like, you will do this or this, like you will play sports or you will get a job.
Well, or you're speaking to a thing. Okay. So what kind you're talking what I'm saying? About, this is a thing. Yeah, this is weird to say on a podcast. A thing I realize now as an adult is that I'm like, a thing I struggle with as adults is I'm like, do I lack discipline? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Do I lack the real, like, it's funny talking to you. Like, obviously you've had to be very disciplined throughout different phases of your life, and I have too. Like I was an older brother, so like you have certain responsibilities there. Mm-hmm. I played sports throughout college, so like I had responsibilities there. And then I realized I'm like, post college, it's like, all right, you have job responsibilities, whatever. Mm-hmm. But for a very long time, I was really only responsible for myself and like rent or whatever, right? And then like now I'm married, and now we talk about kids and family and all this sort of stuff. And I'm like, I realize my motivation is so much like other people. And making sure that I'm doing well for them, making sure that I am, like in my marriage, I'm a equal partner, whatever. And it's so much. And like when my wife leaves, if she's gone for like a week, catch me by like day 3, I'm an animal. I'm a feral. I'm just like
I'm feral.
Yeah, I'm feral. I'm covered in like dust, Cheeto dust or whatever. I haven't worn pants in 2 days and whatever. And you're just like, what is this? It's like, I need people around to hold me accountable. That's a weird thing I'm learning about myself right now that I'm like desperately working to change before I have kids. Because I want it to be a thing where I'm like, no, I'm intrinsically motivated. I want to be this person, whatever. But it's a thing I feel like I struggle with. I think, and it's what you're kind of talking about is like, my parents weren't, they were like, you have chores to do, you have whatever. I was the first person in my family to go to like a 4-year school, which now I'm like, who cares? But at the time I was like, okay, well, I'm doing all these things, right? But then, but I've always been like, it's never been like, hey, you need to take over the family business, or you need to do this, or like, hey, we need you. Like after college, it was really just like, hey, we love you, and like, Well, my dad is like, bye. But my mom was like, hey, I love you and I support you and whatever. And like, I would love to be one of the people who, you know, like rappers are always like, yo, I'm just trying to take care of my mom. Like, I want that. I want that so badly to like be able to help her out and whatever. But at the same time, I'm like, I'm just not in that position. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes I'm like, damn, if I was more disciplined, would I be more successful? I think about this all the time. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, it's weird because I feel like I'm very disciplined with comedy. I feel like I work really hard at like writing jokes and performing and being a great performer. But at the same time, like today, I'm like, you probably could have sent more emails, you know, mm-hmm. you probably could have edited more videos. You probably could have done more XYZ. And now is the time. Like I am a full-time comedian. Mm-hmm. I don't have any kids, whatever. And I'm like, it was in New York. I was always like, well, I have this day job and then I got to run around. I got to do 4 sets tonight. I'm not going to get back until midnight. I got to get up at 8 or 7 or whatever to go back to work. All you can really focus on is the comedy, right? And now it's like, I'm my own boss. I'm a small business. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I'm like, buddy, you need to find a way to kick your own ass and get it in gear. Because mm-hmm. like, but it's funny that you say that of our parents kind of holding us a little bit more accountable. Because mm-hmm. I'm like, I need a little bit of that right now.
Yeah. Well, I think you are. It's discipline with what you're doing. Because you're still here doing it. And you are, like I said, you edited, you know what I'm saying? It's like, mm-hmm. you're doing, because I was the same before we had kids. It was like, but now I'm swamped, you know, now it's like, I am trying to edit, you know, and I'm like, I'm the same. I'm like, can I be more disciplined? I probably need to be, because I haven't worked out consistently in the next
That's the thing I
week
and
a half. Well, but being that, but it's like, dude, I didn't get my clips out for this last episode. It's like, okay, I fell behind here, but I need to make up for it. Like, I will make sure I have, you know, because I just got wrecked. I was gone in Michigan for a foundation. I was like, my Warfighter Scuba Foundation that I work with. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, no, we'll have plenty of time because we typically do. We ended up having a nutso schedule in Michigan. And we were cold water diving, which sucks the life out of you. And then we were doing all these amazing activities with Noah, building relationships, you know, obviously having the wounded vets that were with us. But it was like, dude, we weren't getting to bed till like 11:30. And then like I was sleeping horrifically and we were up at 7 or 6:30 and you're like, I have like a body battery thing. I'm like, your body battery's at like 20 out of 100. And we're all like that. Like none of us are like, dude, it was rough. But no, I know what you mean. Like but at the same time, you're doing well enough though. And you're pursuing this, you know, cause there's guys, I mean, like, I think, you know, when it comes to being, are you disciplined enough? It's like, well, you're still here. Clearly you've made it work. Sure. You know, you went out to, you know, you paid the bills, you do the, you know, it's, I could see though where it eats. Cause I'm like that too. It's like, well, maybe if I would have done the money, well, what if I do this? And, you know, but at the same time, it's like, it's like work-life balance, you know, but it's also, you're not guaranteed. If you were guaranteed, if you posted every single day, you would now become famous in the next 90 days or 120 or something, but none of that's guaranteed. So you don't kill yourself. If you're not feeling like it, don't fucking do it. Yeah. You know, you're also old. I think we're also old enough too. It's like, what is worth my time and what's not? I mean, I have 2 kids. I mean, you're married, so you know now, you know, or even, you know, when you have kids or whatever, it's like then it really bandwidth, because now it goes from, is this, and I've had a lot of long talks with Amanda about this. It's like career and family, mm-hmm. you know, and it's like, so, and also working as a team. Yeah. You got to work inside. Like she was like, because that's when I'm up there, because I guess maybe because I don't like conflict, even though I like going into war. Yeah, which is a wild contrast. So funny, dude. I don't like conflict. I'm in the Minnesota nice realm when it comes to like face to face, but I'm more than happy to drop bombs. But like,
you truly are one of the nicest people I've ever met. And then for sure, just done like crazy. You're just like, what?
Yeah. And it's like, but my wife, you know, like she was upstairs and it's like, how do I ease this mm-hmm. so that we're, you know, you take the kids, I'll take Arch, you take, mm-hmm. you know, or however it works, you know, so that we can, you know, because she was gone I was gone this last week. And that's tough, man. 2 kids going solo and she's got the full time and you're running them in. And it's like, dude, it's survival mode. Yeah. You know, but.
Yeah, that balance it's key. Because like, you know, as creatives, I would say like it's not just like a placating kind of word. It's like, no, like legit, like mm-hmm. Amanda's your partner. Like my wife is my partner. Like she, when I'm down, she gasses me up. When I'm high, she's like, all right, let's, you know, she knows how to like motivate me in all the right ways. And she's like a consistent, for someone who has like truly, obviously trust issues, no question. She's like the one person I trust. And even if, I mean, this is crazy to say, but I'm like, sometimes I'm like, even if we got, our relationship has been so good that I'm like, even if something broke down and like, you know, it's like, hey, we got to go our separate ways. I would never look back and be like, well, I wasted my time. I'd be like, you made me a better person throughout all of this.
Yeah, yeah.
And like, I consider her, I don't want to say this on podcast because now what if I get famous and then we do get divorced? I'm like,
she's like, I'm taking half your shit.
Like, you see this? But like, she really like, I don't know. I think a lot about, we had to make a choice between, you know, she was like, hey, I don't want to live in New York anymore. And I'm like, that's cool. We can like look at other stuff. I think I wasn't always going to be a New York person, but I was like, maybe a little more down the road. And she's like, post pandemic, like everything just felt exasperated. Like it was just faster, you know? So like, it felt like we'd only been there for maybe like 6 years or something. I was there for 6 years. She was there for 5, but it felt like collectively we'd been there for like 10.
Yeah.
Because the pandemic changed so much stuff, right?
That's wild. You were there for 6 years?
Yeah.
That's wild. Even.
Yeah. And it was...
I thought that you were there for like 2. No, you know what I mean? Like in my head, I'm like my own time frame.
I mean, it's it's like we were traveling around a black hole or something.
Yeah,
Time works differently or whatever, right? But yeah, in that 6 years for me, sometimes there's certain stuff like 2017 to 2019... I feel like I remember like 2 things. I'm like, I remember I went to the Creek in the Cave when it was in New York, and I met a lot of my friends who my comedy, like real comedy friends, who are also friends outside of comedy, which I had like 2 of those before when I was in Minneapolis. And then the pandemic happened, and you're like, I don't know. There was like a ship in the Hudson River. I remember washing my groceries or whatever. I remember we lived in Astoria, Queens. We didn't leave our block really. We would take a walk. We left our block, but like we wouldn't leave our borough. We didn't leave our borough for 6 months. New York was like locked down. And then I remember doing like rooftop shows and stuff. And like Chris Rock was on a rooftop show I did once. And I was like, what the fuck is this? You know,
what's going on?
Yeah. Like, what's even happening? You know? So like weird little bits and pieces. And then, so like that whole time frame is crazy to me. But when we got done with it, the one thing we remembered was being like, God, it'd be nice to have a backyard. Like I come here and I'm like, oh, your backyard's so nice. And like, we have a nice little small, humble backyard in our place, but I'm like, it's ours and we have it. And we had to make that choice. You know, it was kind of like, hey, you want to start looking for houses or like, what's up? And this, before we were married, this was never really a thought. I was never going to be like, well, I'm going to stay in New York, so you go do what you want to do. Like, we weren't going to break up or anything, but I'm like, in an alternate world, an alternate dimension, whatever, in a universe of infinite possibilities, let's say we break up, I'm like, I don't think that I would be better off without her. Like, that's how much of a partner I feel like she really is. It's like, emotionally, she's always like really there for me. And like, I would probably be in New York and like maybe be doing a couple different things, maybe have a different, maybe a credit of some like streaming service that doesn't even exist anymore. But like, because she's believed in me so much, I feel like I'm doing stuff that I've always wanted to do, but wasn't really sure that I could. And like, because of her, I'm like, well, let's push further. Let's see how much farther that can go. So it's like, it's so monumental to have someone who fucking believes in you. Because, you know, for me, I have a hard time believing myself. So it is what it is.
Well, and like I said, I think I know what you mean. Like with the frustration, for me, especially getting a little older, you know, it's like, I don't know if it's that you don't believe in yourself. It's like, when is it going to happen? You know, like, is that, you know what I'm saying? Like, because that's how it is for me. Like, I believe in myself, but in the last like year or so, and I have to look back, be like, cause I've always forged my own path, but even I'm like, is this, you know, like you kind of have those little moments, at least I have, where I'm like, am I going to make it? But what is making it? You know, and I've gone to like, well, I've made it technically. I make money at what I do.
Everything you wanted to do when you first started, you're probably like,
exactly. Like, oh, cool. I have created series. I have done war journalism. I have done this. I have done that. I've done underwater stuff. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. But you have to like take stock. You know, I'm sure you're like, hey, yeah, but you've done 7 years and now you have a special.
I'm like, I want more. Exactly. That's my problem.
Yeah. Well, I'm the same way. I'm like, am I going to ever make a feature film? Will I be able to actually call myself a real film director, you know? And yeah, I agree with you. I mean, like, and my wife's very supportive of that, but at the same point, it's like, cool. Like, but it's a negotiation. And also too, it's like, I don't know, man, like I'm sure you guys seen the people in comedy, and I've seen the people, and you're like, I don't want to fucking end up like that. You know, like
100% fucking percent. Where it's like, they have literally everything you thought you would ever want.
Yep.
and it's, some of the toughest, saddest conversations in green rooms that you've ever had. You see them, they're making all these people's nights, and then they're just dead in their eyes.
Yeah.
They're miserable. I mean, I see it. Comedy is a very lonely endeavor. There's a lot of stupid parallels that I feel like comedians make to people who have like served and stuff, which I hate it. I hate it when people are like, oh, she doesn't do comedy, she's just a civilian or whatever. I'm like, we don't talk like that. That's crazy.
I don't think I've heard anyone else say.
You're insane to say that.
Yeah.
We
you don't do stocks? I guess you're a civilian.
Yeah, right? Nobody else does
no
that.
one says that. Yeah.
And we talk about bombing and killing. Like we have all this weird like combat kind of language stuff, right? But I think the thing that like you have that like a lot of comedians, whether they realize it or not, are very lucky if they have this, but most probably don't, is like there's a real brotherhood, I feel like, with a lot of the stuff that you've been through and you've done and you're doing. In comedy, it's got to be one of the loneliest endeavors I've ever, I don't know, maybe like Cowboy in the Old West is also as lonely. I don't know what else it would be, but like you see these headliners, you come into a town, you don't know anybody. It's maybe, especially let's say it's the first time at a club. Okay, so there's a club in the Mall of America, right? Yeah. You're there Thursday through Sunday. If you're a newer headliner, you probably don't know a single soul. You get the shuttle to a hotel that's within 5 minutes to the mall, and then that's it. You take the shuttle, you can walk around the mall. Maybe you find a little park somewhere that's within walking distance, but you're at least 20 minutes plus away from Minneapolis. You're far away from a lot of other stuff. Comedians aren't coming out to hang with you because they don't really come to this place to hang. And you see it in their eyes. They're just like sad. They're like lonely. And I'm like, you're right. This is a lonely place. Like if you don't have the money, if you don't want to spend the money on like a Uber to come to Minneapolis and go do something, or you're burnt out after shows, you've done 2 shows on a Saturday night, and then the comedians you're working with are like, well, I'm going to go to this other place. And you're like, well, I don't know you and I'm tired. I just did 2 45-minute sets. You're just going back to the hotel. There's so many times where you're just sitting in the hotel waiting for the weekend to be over or waiting for your show. And it is a colossally lonely endeavor. And so to find people who make that less lonely is like so important. I feel like whether they're in comedy or not in comedy, to have someone who can make that a little bit easier, someone you can just call, is like a godsend. You're so lucky to have any of that.
I've heard that people like once you start getting moving, like the ones you bring with you,
people take people on the road.
Yeah, take people on the road with them. It's like, hey, you're gonna come with me as an opener. Yep, that does make life I shouldn't say a little. I mean, no,
absolutely, no. So like, I'm a person who I've been lucky enough to be taken on the road by a couple people. In different capacities. Sometimes it's 1 or 2 shows, sometimes it's a weekend, whatever, but sometimes it's multiple shows. Like I open for Kelsey Cook right now a lot, and Kelsey's incredible comedian, like has a pretty big following. Like we talked about before, popped off on like Reels on Facebook, which is awesome, but that means like some of our audience is sometimes a little bit older, and like sometimes creepier, honestly. She's just like creepy dudes. And like, I think one of the things that I can provide as support is like, I look like at my best, like I look like I'm security. You know what I mean? Like I am also a good comedian, whatever. Like I can do well on stage, and that's why she brings me. But like we're friends. And I am also like happy to just stand in the merch line too. Like I'm selling merch and I'll just stand next to her, and I'm happy to be the guy who's like, don't do that. Like, don't be weird. Like, what are you? And she also has other security there, whatever. But like, I think if you can find people that you really like and can also serve the purpose of like being funny, being a good opener, being a good hang, whatever. There are people who probably suck at comedy who are opening for incredible comedians because they're a great hang and they just make the weekends less lonely. Like that's a huge lesson in comedy. It's just like, don't be a dick, learn how to be a good hang and be funny enough, and like good things will happen. 100%.
Yeah. And like I said, I think when you're looking at it that way too, and you're seeing, I've seen it when I was a contractor. You're seeing like, dude, this is not the route you want to go. Or even guys that have, you continue deploying within the regular infantry or even SF or even special operations, like, dude, that's a lonely life. Like, yeah, you're doing cool shit, but it's like, well, what's the cost? You know, 3-4 marriages later, you know, and they're great dudes. They're great guys, but they'll even say it. They're like, yeah, my kids don't even know me, and about my 4th marriage, and I'm, you know, and again, that's just how things were. You know, they chose the job, which is fine, whatever. But I agree with you. I think it's like, I don't know. I think you have a lot of life lessons. Like, I think films teach a lot of that. Like, I've learned a lot of that. It's like, I don't want to end up like that. So if I don't become famous by 28, I guess I'm, you know,
right.
I've even done that stupid scenario in my head. Was like, what if I got famous at? Because I've always wanted kids and a family. And you're like, and this is a game which will never be played because I'm already married and I'm not famous, or I'm not making $100 million films. Sure. You know. But I'm like, what if it would have happened? Like, if I was a Michael Bay, like, dude, can you even like talk about trust issues, right? Like, can you even trust anybody anymore? You know, like, can you, like, you know, you're dating actresses or whatever. This is like stupid. But it's like a think tank thing. It's like, there's reasons why they keep getting divorced because the youngest new thing is out there all the time, every year, you know, like, look at Leo. They're like, it's awesome. I'm like, when you get older, you're part of me. Now that I'm like definitely 38, I'm like, that seems like so much work. A 21-year-old girlfriend, that is a nightmare for me.
I feel like I'm surrounded by like 26, like perpetually surrounded by 26-year-olds. And I'm like, you all seem like you're 14. Like, you all, I don't know. I'm like, what are you talking about? Why do you care so much about this?
Why do you talk that way? Stop talking that way.
Where's the pain? Where's the pain in your eyes? Like, haven't you guys lived through anything?
Yeah, exactly. They're probably looking at you like, oh, okay, like, this is gonna be great. You know,
it's weird. It's so funny to be back in Minnesota, to be a little bit older, and to, like, I feel like I haven't done, you know, half the shit I want to do, but I've done some things or whatever. And, like, sometimes people will talk to me as if, you know, I'm whatever, something of note. And I'm like, oh, buddy, you're gonna be laughing. Like, but we all do that. Like, when you first start, you know, you're 21 or whatever, and then you see this guy, you're like, I just saw him headline somewhere that I can't even get up at the open mic. So you think the guy's a big deal or whatever. And I've been trying to find a balance between that role of, like, you know, like, comedic veteran of just being like, hey, let me show you the ropes a little bit or whatever. And just like, hey, I'm actually still really trying hard to climb up the ladder still. So like, I appreciate that you think I'm doing something, but I'm like, actually don't have time for this because I'm really trying to get over here. Because I want to be a guy. I would love to be a guy who could be, through my success, can help better the comedy scene in the Twin Cities, because it's a good scene. People come here and film specials all the time. I mean, we get to do theater shows and all this sort of stuff, but I still feel like there's a lot of meat on the bone as far as, like, supporting locally. Like, you don't know them yet, comics, but you will know them. And, like, I don't know, paying us more, you know, like, I do a theater show and someone makes $10,000 to $40,000 and I'm making $150,000, and you're like, this is crazy. Like,
I've always wondered how much that was when they do theaters.
I'm talking about this all the time now because like, some people are making, you know, if you see like
is that what their net is, or is that the gross? Just curious. I mean,
net, like, usually net. I think so. Like, net would be, so if you see like a Patton Oswalt, come to like the Pantages for a show or 2 shows or something, I'm pretty sure that guy. This is not me saying I know his numbers exactly. I don't know his numbers exactly, but I think guys like that, they're probably making like $100,000 to do that.
Holy. I mean, I knew it was high because I've done like simple math. And I'm like, okay, I paid $75, so take it for Bill Burr. He's done 5 shows. They added one, and it's a 500-seat theater. You know, you're just kind of like running numbers real quick. And
so you get the stuff like that, right? And then there's smaller theaters that are maybe like 400 or so. So 5, I would say, is like a smaller theater, whatever. But then there's like, you know, 1,200-seat theaters, 800-seat theaters, whatever. Like, those are bigger. And like, these people are making more money, and then there's incentives and like if you sell out and all this sort of stuff, right? But then, you know, like, even if you go to some of these really good clubs and you're doing like a headlining weekend, and let's say you sell out all the shows, I still think you're probably, if you're like let's say you're like, you know, Mark Norman or Mark Norman, So like, let's say those guys, Mark, I don't know if Mark really does clubs like this anymore, but if he was doing a club, if he was doing Acme and sold it out, I think for him, that's probably like a $40,000 weekend.
Really?
A week or whatever.
So that's kind of crazy to hear about that because I mean I kind of assume that I don't know, maybe a few years ago because comedians keep talking about stuff, but you're kind of like, oh, once you start getting there, you know, it's like,
yeah.
And then the amount of
you can
money
tell when they start making money.
Yeah, when they start making money, you're like, oh my God. And like the ecosystem, it feels like now with the podcast, you know, promotion, we have something similar in the veteran community. It's not as big, but there's a smaller, they're not as huge, but there is like definitely like if you get in with this group, the ecosystem, you will amplify, like it will spread across, and you know it's only going to get so far.
Yeah.
But opposed, like it seems, you know, but they've talked about how much they're making. I was like, and in this area, and like not saying it's like, well, I think it's much more obtainable because you think about the 90s and 2000s. They talk about that era, and it's like, well, like we've talked about social media. You know, there's gives and takes of all that stuff, but you're, you know, getting the word out there, but. Yeah, that's why I've wondered. It was like, man, I'm good money. You know, like if you get the ball rolling,
get to that point. I mean, and then that's also why you're like, well, why is this person still doing X, Y, Z? Or like, why is this person doing? Like sometimes I'll see like Sam Jackson in like a commercial. I'm like, why is Sam Jackson in like an Amex commercial or whatever? And you're like, well, that's enough money to like pay off his assistant for a year or whatever, you know, like that goes to other stuff that like funds all this other stuff. So in the comedy world, and I'm willing to bet, I'm guessing in your world too, like there's like corporate events, right? So people will do like, for you, I guess it'd be like
corporate video,
or
they pay the bills,
live speaking or whatever, where it's like,
come
tell my story or whatever.
Yeah, there can be. It's a little. I didn't think about doing that, but yeah,
because it's a good source of income.
Some guys get paid $5 to $10,000, maybe 15.
Exactly.
But there's also other bigger. They get
And you're like, hey, if I can, so if someone like me or someone like us, like if I could give me $3,000 to do 45 minutes at like I've been thinking about this more specifically. So like generally it's like, all right, can you do 60 minutes clean comedy? For like this dentist convention or something. There'll be something like that where I'm like,
I've heard the corporate events or you guys,
So for me, I'm like, well, that's not really me. I can do like 40 minutes clean, whatever, but I've always felt like corporates aren't for me. But now I'm thinking about more going back to like these lanes, right? Where I'm like, I would love to do like an adoption corporate event or whatever, where I can just tell like my normal jokes for these people who like really will understand them. And like probably feel them better, and you know, just pay me like $3,000. That much money could float me doing one of those gigs. That money could float me for the rest of the month. Where then I can go lose money on other gigs and still pay my bills and whatever. And like, hey, I can go open for a person for less money at a really good club, work my way in that way, and then hopefully come back and headline or whatever. And so those are the things I'm starting to think about now. Where it's like, because I feel like this. I deem myself this a lot, and I have a lot of friends who are super talented. And this isn't a shot at anyone's talent or anything, but just where we are, I think we're like middle class comedians. I think if you think about the comedy landscape, and I feel like I'm like a lower middle class comedian financially with what I'm making. And I'm like, how do I climb up to that upper middle class crust? You know, like let me just start knocking on the door a little bit and see what that's like, because, you know, I'm doing all right. I'm full-time comedy right now. But there are days where I'm like, I mean, I should probably just put in a job application at like Home Depot or something.
Amanda did it once in a while. Like, I make good money, but it's inconsistent.
Yeah.
She's like, maybe you should apply. No, maybe I will.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes she's like, you just apply just to say you did. I was like, fine, you know.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
I'm not opposed to it.
Yeah.
Especially again, like I know it's weird to talk about it because it's so long ago, but I think it's had a ripple effect throughout comedy. But post-pandemic has changed a lot of stuff.
It changed everything.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, my stuff, it changed a lot of stuff in our landscape too, but our landscape changed with digital. So my landscape changed like 2014 to 16. I guess that was my film school, but like YouTube taking off, all those other things taking off. COVID for us was very much like, anyone can work anywhere. And that was already kind of a thing with us, but now it's really like, hey man, you got your network, let's just fly you in. We know we can do, like, working remote, it was already kind of a thing with us, but now it blew up, you know, and now everyone's from everywhere. I mean, I work for a streaming service that's out of California, and I'm one of the main creative directors. You know, like we come together for the projects, and then we go our separate ways, and we're just on the phone all the time, and then we just edit from home. You know, or we do our stuff in coordination from home.
That rules.
Because there's no point. Why do you have to? Why would I have to be in San Diego to make the same calls that I'm making from Minnesota?
Yes.
So and it saves them money, actually. You know, actually, because we don't have a studio or anything. They purged everything, and it's like we're making strictly to the dollar our content, and we push it out. But no, yeah, I agree. It's like. And you start thinking that way too when you get a little older. Like when you're young, you're like, yeah, I can take. I mean, we all did it. I did it. I paid out of pocket to make my first commercials. Mm-hmm. You know, you always have to cut your teeth on something. But yeah, I agree. You know, like you're like, okay, can I clear? And for me, like, oh, okay, clear my first 6 figures. Like, did that. Cool. Is it, you know, this day, is that a lot? I mean, yes and no. You know what I mean? Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is, you know, and then you're kind of like, I'm going to, you know, I got some bills, you know, but like, I agree with you. You know, it's like, okay, where are you? It's almost kind of like in your head. Like I think of the podcast this way too. I don't know if you guys think of this, like, okay, like if I can generate a sponsor, what can, you know, each episode, if I can average this, you know, if I push it this way, yes, I put money into this, but if I'm averaging $1,000 off monetization off of YouTube, which I'm averaging right now, a month, what would, you know, and then get a sponsor, you know, like just trying like, can I get $3 to $4 grand just on podcasts?
Yeah.
And then you're, you know,
right. So that's
I'm sure you guys
multiple revenue streams.
Exactly.
That's like what I think for a middle-class comedian, that could be the title, middle-class comedian. But like, that's important. It's like, yeah, what do I have coming in over here, and how does that help? So for our podcast, like one, we're still growing. Like we're not as new as this, but you know, we just cleared like a year of doing these podcasts. And like, I've heard a lot of comedians be like, you can't make any decisions within the first 100 episodes of doing a thing.
Well, if you make it to 21, if you just make it to 21,
really
is like, again, I watch too many podcasts, but like Chris Williamson, he's that modern wisdom dude. Okay. And he's like really taken off. But his, like, that's the average is 21. If you can make it to 21.
That's so funny. That's like what my mom would say, like 21 days to build a habit.
Yeah. But I guess it was actually like how many people quit or stopped posting. They just off the analytics, like 21 is for some reason the number. Yeah. Typically that's the thing too. It's like 10 days. It's like 10 days or 14 or something like to do or 21 to do a habit. But they're saying it's 21 days on average, 21 episodes on average to like commit or not commit. Right. And if you've already in a year in, or even you're at 100 episodes. I mean, you know,
so like that's easily, so I'm not doing any major. So we're at like 78 or something right
which
now.
Which is fucking huge, by the way.
Which is a lot.
Discipline.
Thinking about, so that's where I'm like, no, I guess I am disciplined, but I'm like, I wish I could take some of the discipline I have for the comedy stuff and put it towards, going to the gym more, not eating at like 11 p.m. or something, you know what I mean? Like, all this sort of shit, whatever, like doing better at emails. But like for us, like you're talking about monetization stuff, we did have that. We're like, okay, like maybe it'd be good to be this. What we started doing, which I think I really like, and like obviously I want to build this up. Like if you take a look at our podcast I think is great. I don't think like, you know, we're not crushing it with the numbers. Like we're doing fine for a local Minnesota comedy podcast. It's fine. But like, we started doing a Patreon. We started having people kind of like direct kind of fund. And it's like, our Patreon is humble right now. But what I'm liking is I'm seeing people come to shows and then like sign up, just come to my show and then be like, oh, check out the podcast, and then like sign up for a Patreon or something like that. Mm-hmm. So like now I know you're invested. You're invested enough in this that you want to give me like $5 or $10 or whatever. Mm-hmm. And like now we're kind of like, well, if we get enough of these Patreon people together and then get our audience big enough, we want to make live shows. A lot of us, just because we're performers, I think for us, live shows are so much more fun and more interesting. Mm-hmm. And like we like to experience this medium in that way. So we've only done one so far, but we're just about to line up a bunch of other live podcast recordings at the Comedy Corner Underground, which now is just closed. So we have to find a new club to do this at. But so we do our Troll Hole live, where it's me and my buddy and our producer Neil, Mike Lester's the other comedian. Then we'd have two other comedians come on, and we would just do our podcast live for an audience, maybe bookend it with or open it with a comedian doing some stand-up at the beginning and the end or both. And then it's like everyone just gets this fun, unique experience. And then also we record that.
Yeah.
And then that's like bonus Patreon content. Yep. So if you couldn't make it to the show, check it out on Patreon. You put clips out of the live stuff, and then we'll put the full episode on Patreon. We've been branching out to more. We did like, I don't know if you golf ever, but sometimes at these like charity golf events, they'll have like heckle holes where it's like someone just gets to talk shit at one of the holes. Yeah. And, you know, my wife, someone she works with knew I was a comedian, and they asked me if I wanted to be a comedian at one of the heckle holes. And I'm like, well, I run the Troll Hole podcast. So why don't we just have the podcast come out and then we'll like film there, get bonus content, whatever. And then that comes back to the Patreon, you know what I mean? And then like we can do some clips and all that sort of stuff. And like I was telling you before, we went to the State Fair, we're going to go to the Renaissance Festival, we're going to do all this stuff. And like, that's like an interesting space for me. Cause like, I don't know that an advertiser would really give a shit about what we're doing right now. Like if we're lucky, we can get like a dedicated local fan base with this podcast. I have a lot of friends who don't live here who are like, hey, I watch all the clips. And I'm like, great. I appreciate that. Will you subscribe to our YouTube? Will you, you know, whatever. So for us, we've been really doing Patreon stuff, and I'm really liking kind of like, I think we have to tweak it a little bit still, but I'm like, oh, it's interesting. Like we have a $25 tier where it's like, if you're part of this tier and we're doing a show in your city, you get a free ticket to the show.
Nice.
And then like, also you can do XYZ, whatever. You get all the other stuff. And I'm like, I know a lot of creatives and a lot of podcast people, especially who are like, the Patreon is what drives it, their revenue source. And then like anything else is a bonus, you know?
Yeah. And that's the thing. I had one of the guys I had on, is ingenious idea. And by the way, it does on Spotify too. I don't know if you saw that now. I noticed in the last few months. What? So you can subscribe on Spotify to someone's channel for like $1. And you get bonus episodes. So like I listened to Matt and Shane's podcast, you know, Matt and Shane Gillis, and they had like Dave Chappelle on one. You could only access it, so it'll show the regular
motherfucker.
Yeah, they just started. Like, and I don't even know if you can do it right away. But they probably have to have so like for me, I'm like it's a lot, but it's not at the same time, like 5,000 hours away. So I've met 2 of the 3 criteria. I need to get 5,000 hours to get monetized on Spotify. They're much harder, by the way. I mean, YouTube, you can at least like not game it, but like Spotify's like just post and hope to God people find you on the app. It's so much harder. But they do have a tier. Maybe I could do it. Maybe I can do it right now. But you do like, hey, pay $1, and then so they do like every episode. But then it's also like, oh, here's the extra stuff. I don't know if it's exclusive to Spotify, but you can create whatever. And but Patreon, one of the guys, it was a pretty solid idea. I can't do it, but he goes, I show clips on YouTube. And if you want to see the full episode, you go to Patreon. Now it's very niche. It's the 75th Ranger Regiment, and all the guests are strictly 75th Ranger Regiment. So they're only like, I'm not even, I don't even think Mike would have me on, even though I had him on. That's just their thing, which is totally cool. But he just has guests strictly on that are former veterans of the 75th Ranger Regiment, and from all eras, Vietnam all the way to now. But he's like, he goes, it's going well too, because he struggled with that. Was like, how do we get sponsors? How do we, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm like, it's a little bit late in the game, but but it also is what's your lane? You know, like you can kind of get away with that on their lane. I don't know. I don't think I can get away with that because who am I? So you know, it's like that weird.
You'd be surprised.
You know, again, maybe I am wrong, and because I've been trying to find an avenue, but again, my bandwidth is so. It's like, how do I create extra content for Patreon? I'm sure there is, but it's like, I do 4-hour podcasts. So am I going to do another 2 hours? Be like, well, I got to do a 6-hour. If you want to get the last 2, that might be it. Or it
might be do a 2-hour podcast. You want the last?
That's true. The 4-hour. I could swing that. Maybe I should do that.
Just because that's what a lot of my friends will do. They'll be like, hey, it'll be 90 minutes. First hour is main feed. Last half hour is Patreon, and then it's like that's where we like let loose. You know, like, well, you let loose on the main one too, but like we say all the names and the Patreon and stuff.
Exactly. And that's what I've learned that again with podcasts I've listened to, like, oh, we're switching over, and they do like a hard hour again, just Matt and Shane. I was like, oh, okay. And they do an hour, and then it's hard out
Yep.
And they're like, switch to Patreon, and they just keep going, which I have thought of, or like extra content, or, you know, a Q&A. Like I was with Antihero. They do the live streams. Dude, once you build up, but again, though, that's like, do you guys do weekly or what do you do?
We do weekly podcasts.
See, that's at least like you have a buddy, and like I wish I had that, because it's like they do Antihero. Granted, it's a veteran space, but dude, they'll go for like hours on Thursday nights every night. And dude, people are paying $25, $50, $75 to be like, I love you, or just to talk shit, and they read it.
The streaming stuff, I'm not like, I'm not against it, but I'm just
saying it's like another avenue.
I know. So like one thing that this is a thing we have to tweak on our Patreon, because we didn't think anyone would ever be in this tier. One of the tiers is like,
shit, someone's paying us, we got to do it.
They're like, you can do a monthly live stream with us. And I was like, guys, don't put this in there, because you're going to have to do this if someone does it. Yeah. And they're like, I don't know. And then they put it in there, and now someone's doing it. And I was like, well, are you guys going to do your monthly live stream? Because I said I didn't sign up for it. It's just you guys. But like, there's stuff like that where I'm like, God, yeah, if I was more online, if I was better at like being a guy who like loves streaming and whatever, if I was a guy who could play video games and just stream that shit.
Dude, that about 3 years, I was at Black Rifle when that shit kicked off. Yeah. And granted, it was like COVID, but it was like a year or two, it was like 2022 frame or 21, 22. And it was just like, if you had a following, you could almost translate it to Twitch. Yeah. Twitch was the big one. Yep. And people were just raking it in. You're just playing video games, and like, even like some guys were getting into it, and I thought about it for like a second. Again, I had like my first daughter, or my daughter, and she was only like a few months old. And I'm like, what, are we getting the fucking games now? You know, you kind of like have that moment. You're like, am I going to play video games now and tell my wife I'm going to play video games every single night now for the next year?
Shut up, babe. I'm working.
Yeah. As I make like comments, you know, be like, oh my God, you know, which is great. Some people do that, which is totally fine. But, it is kind of like, what is your bandwidth, and what, again, passion? Like, am I passionate about?
Is it true to you?
Exactly. Is it like authentic? You know, is it true to me? Is it what I want to do? Because you got to want to do it, and then it turns into like the discipline of doing it. Like, I wanted to do this. Yeah. This is clearly, I love doing this. I love talking with people. I love doing it. Before I started doing it, I'm like, okay, this is like fun. Yeah. You know, it's like gives a reason to like bullshit with somebody and just have fun. But now it becomes a discipline of like, okay, now I have to do it, but because I want to do it, opposed to being like, I need to do a Patreon so I can get some more money. I almost, it sucks, because then like when you eventually figure something out or fall into it, you're like, why didn't I think of this 3 years ago? Sure. You know what I mean? I'm sure you're like, what the fuck? You know, like
100%. There are jokes I have that are like that. There are things I do that are like that. Every aspect of my life, I'm like, damn, I wish I could figure this out earlier. But
like, I've been thinking back to, I was so hard headed about not working for people. I was like, I'm going to make it on my own after film school. And I mean, you remember, I was so fucking broke. And then like, I look back, I'm like, I could have just applied for the local video production and
that's funny. Yeah.
Pulled in making 40, 50 grand.
I don't remember you being super broke, by the way. I never thought of you. I didn't realize if that was going
I was wicked broke. That's awesome. I was barely making, I was doing Amazon Flex, and I would have to decide if I pay rent and then I delay my cell phone bill for like 30 days. That's awesome, you could do that. Yeah. And then I would get enough money, then pay my cell phone bill like 10 days late, but it was fine because you just tell them that it was going to be late. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Shit, dude. Yeah. I don't know. That was such an interesting time, because like I was also making no money, but the overhead was so low. Like,
overhead was so low.
Yes. I was paying $400 in rent, and then me, and I think that's what it was, maybe not, but me and Mike, who I do the podcast with now, we would run a open mic / one time a month. It would be a show. And I think I would make almost my entire rent off of that. Mm-hmm. So it was like, you know, we'd get $50 a show or something like that each. That was just to us. I think we could maybe get like $300 over the course of a month or something, $400 for a show. And then I was like, if I do one other show this week, I'm fine. And I was also working a day job. So I was like, this is like the fucking dream. I'm like, who needs more than... I bet I didn't have more than like $2,500 in my bank account or whatever. Yeah. But like, to me, I was like, this is the most I've ever had in my bank account, whatever. And that was what made like going to New York so scary. I was like, well, what am I gonna do?
That overhead jumps.
Yeah. Overhead jumps. Here's how I ended up moving to New York. I got in a car accident in Minneapolis. I got T-boned by a teen. And
I think I remember this now.
Yeah, I can't remember if we were still living together. Well, I mean, if you were still there. You had to.
Yeah.
So it was like, now where the Viking Stadium is. I think about it every time I'm over there. I'm like, this is where I almost died, because the girl was like tweeting her friend like LOL or whatever. but she T-boned me, totaled my car. I had a Hyundai Elantra. It was 2008 Hyundai Elantra. Held up great. Shout out to the people at Hyundai. Honestly, I probably should be dead, but you saved me.
They're crushing it.
And then that totaled my car, and they paid me out for that. And with that money, I was like, I'm going to buy a plane ticket and go to New York, and this will pay my rent or whatever. And then stupidly, for the first like 6 months in New York, I don't know what the fuck I was thinking. I think I was like, I don't know, I guess I'll come here, probably get discovered pretty much instantly, and then I guess it'll just go from there.
Dude, you got to have that like delusion though.
That.
You have to have, like, I'm the same way. I'm like, don't worry, like it's going to be a few years. I'll be working on Michael Bay's sets.
Yeah.
I'll be, you know what I mean?
It's funny that I had that then and I don't have it now. Now I'm like, we'll see what happens. I'm very like cautious, but then I was like, yeah, so I'm just not going to work for I'm just going to do comedy for 6 months. I'm like, what if I would have just cut that down to 3 and did like part-time job for another 3 of them? It's so much better of a situation after the 6 months of me just doing comedy were up. But in Minneapolis, I didn't have to worry about it at all. And now it's funny. It's like, now I have a mortgage and I have other bills and stuff, but my mortgage, I mean, definitely my wife and I obviously split it, but like my half of the mortgage is so much less than, our mortgage is less than what our rent was in New York. I think about that a lot. And I'm not a person who's like, you have to own a home. You have to, I get it. Nowadays, it's kind of like, figure out kind of what you're trying to do in the future. If you want to be a renter, that I totally understand why and the values. As someone who has had a basement that's flooded twice in the last 2 years now, I understand how fucking annoying it is to have a house, whatever. But it's so funny, just the switch of like being the most comfortable idiot I've ever been in Minneapolis and then being like an idiot still, but being like very uncomfortable in a lot of ways in New York, and how good and bad that was for me. You know?
Yeah. Well, I think I think you said have that delusion, but it's funny as you look back, but at the same point, you're kind of like said, you're disciplined to, make it work.
I'm good at, that's what's so funny is like, it's not like, it's like I'm good back against the wall, like procrastinating or do or die kind of situation. That sounds so much more tragic than I mean, but like, back against the wall, I feel like that's where I'm really like, okay, we gotta go.
No, I'm with you. I'm the same way. Think a little bit too. Like when you have that fire, it's a bit like, I got something to prove. Because it is. I mean, like, I think when people are like, you get too comfortable, it's like, no, being comfortable is great. Like it frees up time. Like, you can say no to things. If you kept going the way you were when we were like 10 years ago, like you'd be a psychopath. You'd be dead, burned out. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I think you like, I remember when I started just charging more, like I'd be like saying no, and then people start paying me and I'm like, well, this is great.
Isn't that crazy? I value myself.
Yeah. And some people would be like, what do you make? Or, what's your day rate? I was like, yeah. But I was like, I have clients that pay within my network. And yeah, I might only work 3-4 days out of the week, but then I'm making as much as I was working 30 days for W-2, like now granted you can go spaces, but then there's times I pull in 20 grand or there's times I pull in 6. It's like, you get paid what you're worth, but I think though with you though, this thing comes back to that discipline, but finding those different avenues of revenue, I think is very much open. Like, so like I'm already envious of you. I'm like, man, you got a buddy that you do a podcast with and it's every week. I'm like, right now I'm like, oh my God, that'd be so awesome.
Yeah. You think it is awesome. I am lucky to have them, but also it's like, it's not always glamorous. Like there are times we're fighting right before the podcast starts and like our guest is just sitting there being like, are you guys okay? We're like, shut up.
And we're back.
Yeah. Cause it's tough. Cause like, especially two creative people and we align in a lot of ways, but sometimes we'll have like these creative differences where it's like, hey, I want to do X, Y, Z. And like one of us is like, it's mostly like he'll want to branch out in a certain way where I'm like, I like this. I like that you want to branch out. I get that. Here's like the core of what we're doing. I don't want to get too far from that because I feel like if we just do random stuff and throw it against the wall, then we lose all of it. Like, so I'm like, how does this fit into this? And what is your plan for this? Right. Or I have to learn to loosen up. I've had a lot of conversations with him and other people about like, hey, like why, if he wants to do X, Y, Z over here, why does that affect what's over here? Well, especially if you do have a Patreon stuff, it's like, why don't you try some stuff, put it behind a paywall, see what happens, see what people relate to, put the clips out, see if they care. And it's a good exercise in like learning to, I mean, I truly feel like I have a work wife. Like I have a wife and I have a work wife, and I love him to death, and he's so talented. But like sometimes, we just don't have the same idea on stuff. And then those are the days where it's like, oh, just fucking do it by myself, whatever. But grateful to have him in our. We have a producer. Neil is our producer, and he's so talented and stuff. And like, because I feel like sometimes people see him on our podcast and stuff he does, they're like, well, I want to use him for mine, and I'm like, talk to him if he's free, he'll do it. Yeah. But then sometimes you're like, you're like, damn, my boy's so busy, like doing all this other stuff that you're like, what if we just all close? It's just us again. And then we don't, but I want to create opportunities for my friends. I want people to, support what we're doing, obviously. Mm-hmm. But it is a fascinating dynamic having two other people. Like I would say we're equal thirds in the thing. Mm-hmm. We all bring something different to the table. And some days you are like, I could do this myself. It'd be fine. But then I'm like, it would be so much worse if I was just by myself. Mm-hmm. But I feel like, I don't know how much you collaborate with other people or have in the past, but like, I feel like one of the things that I deal with is like, I feel like I want so desperately to collaborate and find someone, but then like, it's tough because I feel like I'm not too demanding. I feel like I don't do anything. I don't ask anything of anyone else that I wouldn't ask of myself. Mm-hmm. But kind of a realization I had this year is like, I'm very hard on myself. Mm-hmm. I hold myself to a crazy standard. And that's why, I'm like, oh, I'm not disciplined enough, or I'm not XYZ or whatever. And then it's tough when you're doing that to other people. And they're like, well, I feel like I'm doing a good job or whatever. It's like, you're right. You're fine. I'm just kind of messed up in a lot of ways. And that has been an interesting thing. I realized in the past, I'm like, well, why didn't this thing work out? Or why didn't this work out? And it's because I probably should have been doing it by myself. Mm-hmm. This was going to be the podcast that I am doing now. I originally was going to do it in New York by myself because I wanted to just to see if I could maybe have a producer, which in New York, you can pay other people to whatever. But I was like, I'm tired of feeling like I'm let down by people. I'm tired of feeling like I'm the taskmaster, the guy that's, everyone else is having fun. And then I'm like, hey, stop having fun. We have work to do. I'm tired of being that guy. Mm-hmm. So what if I just do a thing by myself? And I don't know. I still think there's a version of a project that I want to do, maybe some other stuff that is just me. But it is awesome to have these other guys as part of the one that we're doing right now. Yeah.
No, I agree with you. I think we were going to do once a month. It's called Breaching with the Boys.
Okay.
And I did it 1 month. It was the very first month. It was awesome. And I loved it. It was a great time. And my buddy, it was a good dynamic. It was my buddy Greebs, who we all served in the guard together. And my buddy Charlie, who's a cop, and he wanted to be bomb squad. I don't know if he's still going to or not. He got passed up, but they're retiring, so he wants to get on the Bloomington bomb squad.
Sure.
And we did it. It was a fun podcast. It was so much fun. It was a blast, which is the dynamic I want. And I take care of the back end. I just need people to show up or have the right. Having those two is the good. You can't have either just one. It's it has to be three.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just to play off and I was like, it was a great dynamic. And then Charlie's like, I can't. He's like, some of the people already saw the reels, from his work. And he was like, it wasn't bad, but he's like, yeah, I'm going to get shit for this, Sure. And he's trying to because that's I think it's a top secret clearance or a secret clearance, to go on bomb squad. You got to, it's a federal, so they got to do background checks. They're going to, so he was like, I'll do it after I do it or get on or figure something out. But I was like, that's cool. Cause in my head, I'm like, I'll do all the work on the back end. Just show up, if someone but that's one thing I wanted to do. I think that was oh man, because once a month was cool. Cause then I could do 3 episodes a month and it's a little less demanding because it's a consistent. So it's not like I'm trying to really promote. It's just a consistent of Breaching with the Boys is once a month and then you have tentpole guests. Yeah. And what it would have been cool is every week, obviously, but that's good. They have families. My buddy, his wife's pregnant, and then Charlie's got 2 kids. So Greaves got one on the way, and then he's got 2 kids, and he lives all the way on the west side near Minnetonka. It's Waconia.
Oh, geez.
So it's a hell of a drive. It's a 40. And he was working day shift. He's like, I can make it because my kid's in school. I work night. Oh, he's working night shift. So he's like, I can come over at like noon. And then Greaves was like in college courses. It was like, it worked out. I'm like, dude, we'd have to do like Wednesday nights every time. It'd be killer. You know,
if you, I'll throw this out there right now. Like you're talking about Patreon content and stuff like that could be a perfect page. Like if you could figure that out and, you know, figure it all out for everyone, be like once a month, we'll do this thing. Yeah. And like, I'm sure people would see that, you know, like, yeah, you have the hurdle of him being like, I don't want people to like, a paywall is a good way to stop people from seeing certain stuff. I'll tell you that. You just blur out his face. Who cares? Whatever. But like, that would be like, I'm sure there would be people who watch this who'd be like, I want to know what that is for sure. Like, I want to see what this is like.
Yeah. Cause then we could tease some of the drama stuff. Yeah. You know, like I'm sure like, oh, we're going to talk shit about Tim Kennedy now. 100%. Or like, oh, hey, we'll go to the Patreon because we'll gather up everything for the month. Yeah. And just go to town. That's a good idea. There you go.
Cause like, I feel like I'm so good at this shit. I feel like there are times where I'm like, I should stop doing stand-up comedy and I should just be like a manager for people. Cause I'm like, here's an, oh, you're saying this thing, just do this. And I'm like, this is a great idea. You should do that, whatever. And I do that with my friends all the time where I'm like, hey, you know how you said this and then this person said this? What if you guys just connect and do that? I'm like, that's literally what a manager I feel like does. It's like, I haven't quit yet, so we'll see.
Yeah. And like I said, I mean, it's, you know, like I said, it's a cool challenge, but you know, you guys are, I don't know, like I said, the Patreon aspect of, or even other stuff too, like I said, the Spotify going back and forth and stuff like that, you know, it's like, oh man. So you guys, I guess we get a little drama with the comedy scene. Do you guys
think so?
What's that?
Well, you think you want to get into?
Yeah, get into the drama. Yeah, get.
What do you think the drama in the comedy scene is?
Well, I think everybody just hates each other. Like not hates each other, but there's always like someone's pissing or it's not comedy because it's this or whatever. Yeah. You guys, I can understand because I kind of agree with some things on that where it's like I think maybe I saw it a little bit with back in the 2000s where people were trying to do stand up, but they were more like groundlings and they're like comedic actors. Cause I think there's like, I can write comedy, but I'm not a comedian. Sure. Like I've written stuff, people are like, that's really funny. I'm like, okay, well, so I can write a comedy, but one, I need to execute still. But like I've done stuff where people have laughed. And it's like, cool. I wrote that, not saying I'm a comedy writer, but like, that's different from being a comedian or being whatever, you know, did you guys ever, you know, because I felt like there was a point there when they were talking about COVID and I think a few other things was like, oh, people were just doing comedy because it was the last resort. Like it was like What's Her Nuts was even like the Stormy Daniels was like doing stand up and like
I've had people who lost gigs to Stormy Daniels. Yeah, that's hilarious.
And there's like other ones too, like what and they're like, oh, I used to be a comedian back in the 80s, and I was like, I don't think Pauly Shore. I've heard he's like good.
He's done comedy consistently, so Pauly Shore should be able to do whatever. Stormy Daniels is a perfect example. Yeah. The person who I'm sure most people who listen to this know, but the person who like basically like blew up kind of being like, oh, I fucked the president.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I think everybody knows who she is.
She had a career, whatever, but so whatever. And it's like, yeah, okay, you've done that, but why are you at Governor's in Long Island? You know, why are you at this comedy club? You know, you're doing a book tour and you're doing, this doesn't really make sense. So that's hard. So like, you have like, there are a lot of different battles, I feel like, in comedy.
Let's get into them.
A lot of it is like there are people who are popping online who then try to be like
translate.
Their team says, you know what, we should get you into comedy clubs. We should get you in front of people, which I still don't really understand. I guess it's like, well, I guess I do understand. It's kind of a way to make a quick buck, like we were talking about before.
Yeah, if you
can do a theater and make $40,000 to $100,000,
the management's probably like, maybe we can get a
because then they get 10% of that or 20% or whatever they are, whoever, you know. So they're like, there's good money there. And if you do a year of these, plus you're still doing your online stuff, and then maybe we get you in a little movie, we get you in a little ad here or there, that's a lot of money for them. You know, that's a lot of money for their team and for the people, right? I get that. It's annoying that they are in the comedy spaces because then comedians open up for them. Their audiences aren't comedy audiences, so they don't know what the fuck is going on. They have no idea how to behave in any of these rooms. And then these people go on and like, you know, normally if you're the headliner, you're doing like 45 minutes or whatever. They're doing like 30, they're doing 35. They're bombing half the time. They're sucking. They play some sketches or something or videos of like stuff that everyone's already seen online. And then they leave and then they like never come back because everyone's like, this was this is weird. We don't like this.
Even the fans are like, this is weird.
I just rather would stay home and watch you online. Like it's a lot of money and a lot of work to come and see someone in person. And then there are people who are like, well, I guess that's what stand-up comedy is. And they're like, no, it's not that. It's actually people work really hard to make it something different and make their craft a little better. So that's one thing. Then you have like the Stormy Daniels, the oh man,
I don't want to say Steve-O because I heard Steve-O's actually pretty good now.
Steve-O,
but he said he got that hate because he's like admitted to. He's like, I wanted to do it. I got spots I shouldn't have got because I'm Steve-O.
Yes.
And I bombed. But he still like was like, I want to get better at it. And I've heard that. I've never even seen I've
never seen him do stand up. He's my friend Adrian Washington got him to come to St. Cloud once actually, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Which Adrian Washington, comedian, everyone should check out. Very funny. Talk about sponsorships and stuff. He's a great guy who literally, he doesn't do a Patreon, doesn't do like ads or anything for what he does. He gets local sponsors. Like he'll be like, yo, this show is sponsored by like Pig Ate My Pizza in Sauk Rapids, Minnesota or something. You know, you're like, this is crazy. Like he's got like suit sponsors and all this other stuff. He's like a genius with a lot of that sort of stuff. But getting back to it, so you'll have the Stormy Daniels, the Steve-O's, the influencers, whatever. You also have like the kind of failed actors who are getting into
that's
like,
what
So like you said Pauly Shore, but actually, do you know Jeremy Piven? So Jeremy Piven,
he got
so he's a guy.
I love him as an actor too. Yeah, but I know all the backstory.
I loved him as Ari in Entourage. I think I might do an Entourage rewatch with my wife. She's never seen it. So I'm like, talk about B. Brown. We used to watch Entourage all the time. He's great in the role. He is unfortunately a shitty guy. He's got a lot of allegations against him and rumors, whatever. Even if you take out the allegations, I think he just is probably treats people kind of shittily, whatever. But, and this happens a lot in comedy where people have credible allegations against them, and it's like legally maybe you can't do much, but you would kind of hope that you'd be like, hey, if enough people, here's what I'll say. Let's take a step back. If Bill Cosby was like, I'm going on tour, okay, there are definitely clubs that would still book him. It wouldn't be as hard as you think to have Bill Cosby come.
Well, was he technically let off the hook too? Because they would probably like, well, he was innocent.
He was
or something like that, wasn't it?
He was let off on like a technicality. Something in court. They did something.
But I know what you mean.
Where you're like, but like you did all, even if you did one, that's enough.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's like a lot of the people that you're dealing with. They're like, well, not everything they say about me is true or whatever. And they're like, is that one true? And they're like, maybe. But
what was the deal with Chris D'Elia?
Chris D'Elia. That's a great example. He's a guy who I think he filmed his last fucking special in Minneapolis, and you're sitting here and you're like,
I heard it was crazy,
it was terrible. I've watched some of it, and
here's the drama I want
because these are people who are like,
but everyone's
let's
doing
say this
videos,
clip popped off, they'd be like, who the fuck is this guy? Chris D'Elia doesn't know me. Jeremy Piven doesn't know me. I just know of these people because like people see this. People see the stuff you do, and then you're a bigger name or whatever, and then you're not only being shitty off stage, you're now bumping comedians on stage, and now it's like it's a double problem for us. And it's a lot of people would be like, oh, the woke mob or whatever, and it's like, dog, if you're a literal whatever, I don't want you around. I don't want. If we worked at a auto parts store and they're like, hey, Todd, I just saw him DMing a 12-year-old. You'd be like, I don't want to work with him either. It's not.
Because that was it. The Chris D'Elia was like he was grooming.
He was like basically talking to a bunch of like underage people and like, I don't know, maybe allegedly hooked up with some or whatever. Did he know? Did he not know? I don't know. I feel like probably, He was talking to younger girls, maybe potentially cheating on her wife, whatever.
That's not even the worst part. Like if he's cheating on his wife, he's cheating on his wife.
Honestly, out of all those, that happens.
It's Hollywood.
That's fine. Unfortunate, but she stuck by him through all this stuff, so whatever. So, and it's like, that's just not a guy. I feel like, why are we rewarding people for their shitty behavior? Why can't it be like, hey, take a little time out, brother? But that's to the credit of comedy. Your audience speaks volumes. If it's like, a lot of places need money, and they can be like, well, maybe we disagree with certain aspects of them, but there's an audience for it. And you're like, for sure, there's an audience. You better card every one of them, because I don't know that they're going to be old enough to come into this Crystalia show. But so like, there are guys like that who are kind of like the light canceled guys who now are coming through and headlining and whatever. And then like, I think the biggest thing right now, and this is the one that I'm sure most people here will probably be divided on, but I'll be divided compared to most people. Is like, right now it's a lot of like, Kill Tony and a lot of those guys where people have a hard time with that because, Tony Hinchcliffe is whatever to a lot of people. A lot of people just didn't generally like him, I feel like. And he's huge. He's got massive, a huge show.
Well, it's a crazy, like you said, it's a crazy idea that really kind of took off. Because like when you're talking about like your live shows, it's like, it's sometimes, it's like one of those things where like things just hit. Like I know of Kill Tony, just like it's because it has been so big. I've seen the clips; they're really funny. Yeah, but then it's also like, I don't know. I know what you mean.
Some people I feel like think it's gotten too big for its britches. Basically, where like it's different if it's a small show to them in the Comedy Store in LA at 11 p.m. on a Wednesday or whatever, and now it's like, okay,
Madison Square Garden,
which is crazy. Which is like insane, and you're getting these first time comedian. It's actually, I really don't. It's the show I don't think a lot of the people surrounded with it are that funny, but that's comedy subjective. That's whatever. I think the problem isn't the show for me. The problem is, okay, so this person does Kill Tony. It's their third time doing stand up. Maybe they're like a golden ticket winner, so now they're on like the Kill Tony tour or whatever. I don't know. And now it's like, now they're doing Madison Square Garden. And now, because people love them so much on Kill Tony, they might have been, or maybe they're a 10-year comedian and whatever, but they might still suck. And now they're doing clubs where it's like, I have good comedian friends who can't get into clubs because they don't have the same following as like terrible, brand new Kill Tony comedians, And that sucks. Yeah. Like you want people to be rewarded for being good at the thing, but you realize pretty quickly it's like, it's actually rare that people are like, you're so good that I'll bypass all my other biases about how many people I need you to have, how many followers I need you to have, what kind of drink sales I need from you, whatever. So now you want the people you think are good to like be able to showcase their abilities, right? Now, the argument for the Kill Tony people are like, well, people want to come see us, and it's the #1 show, whatever. So fuck you, basically, is their argument, which is fair. It is like, people want to come see you. Who am I to stop you?
Like I shouldn't say demographic. I meant more of like demographics as in like you could actually fly. Because I feel like I agree with you a little bit, but it's also that aspect of like, it's like, well, you could. Don't say fly down and do that. I mean, like, is there way? Because I feel like it's a little more like if you went down and did Kill Tony, like I feel like the accessibility, or is it like is there a list?
It's not. It's like a list. So first of all, I would never. I'd rather fly down and never mind. The thing I was gonna say, I'm like, you cannot say on the podcast. But I would. So it's like you go to Austin. Basically, it's like a cattle call. It's like everyone waits in this area, and I think you sign up and they pull some names out of a bucket or whatever. I'm sure it's maybe lightly rigged where they're like, okay, we know this name, let's make sure we get this on. Maybe not. And then it's like it's a complete crapshoot. I've known at least 2 people I think who've done it, and like sometimes I know 3 people who've done it. One of the people blew up his career in a way. He was in New York and he was not doing great. People did not like this person. He wasn't doing great on stage or off. Went to Austin, blew up, and is now, it changed his life. Yeah. Literally got on Rogan because of it and all this sort of stuff. 2 other people I know, it's kind of like one got to perform at Madison Square Garden. One got to do it in Austin. I don't know if it was at the Mothership or not. When she did it, it was like she had like one of the worst experiences of her life. Where she got to be in front of comedians that she didn't like, or comedians that she did like, and they didn't. It was just tough. It was a tough minute. It was a tough interview. It was all the bad stuff. So I've seen.
Yeah, I feel like it can go sideways because I've watched it, and you're like, dude, that can go fucking sideways. And I feel like it goes sideways more than it is successful. Obviously, you see the clips that are hilarious, but it's like I've tried to watch an episode. It's like I can't watch it. It's like too cringy because I know they're bombing. And it's terrible. And like it's like going to an open mic. And it's like I don't really want to watch this anymore. You know, like totally respect the craft, but it's like I want to laugh and I don't want to. You know, like it's just.
And there is something like I'm a hater, but I can acknowledge like I can appreciate someone who has found something and built something up. Like Tony, I'm a Tony Hinchcliffe hater. That's fine. We'll never meet. He doesn't know me. It doesn't matter. But I can be like, it is crazy that he built up this thing into what it is. I think it speaks to a lot of where comedy is now. I think there's a lot of shift in. I think what I don't like about a lot of the Kill Tony comedians is I'm like, if you heard a lot of the shit they're saying, like, that's getting them these huge followings. If you heard it at an open mic, you'd be like, this guy sucks.
Yeah.
You'd be like,
the standard isn't high. Yeah.
And I think generally the standard in comedy has been lowered a lot. I think there's a lot that's been lost. I know I talk about a lot, but since the pandemic, I think a lot of it, some for better, some for worse, a lot of the stuff that was happening pre-pandemic has gone away. There isn't as much mentorship. There isn't, the standards are different. The gatekeeping stuff is gone in a lot of ways. Or changed or whatever. And because of that, the barrier to entry to a thing where the barrier to entry was already pretty low has gotten even lower. And I've seen some of the worst comedians I'll ever see in my life doing better than I'll ever do in my life. And it's not even that I'm bitter about it. You're just like, that just sucks. I don't know. It just sucks to see it.
But like, I agree with you too on a little bit of that. Like I could see that. Like I don't feel it, like I guess in our media space, we don't really have anything like that. I guess if you were in Hollywood, you know, then you would be like, man, he got on that gig. But you're also like, no one's working in Hollywood right now. So like you know, but I mean, in that aspect, like I would get that. But at the same point though, if they, I don't say they rise too fast, but it's like, if they suck, they suck. You know, it's like,
that's true.
You know what I'm saying? Like you might have one good year, but if it doesn't translate, I mean, one of the things that's what I kind of like talking about this with you a little bit, because I've tracked some of them, but like they talk about like Brendan Schwab, and they're like no one, like no, I mean like even like you know,
and he's a little bit different thing because he was never killed. He wasn't a performer, but he was in that space.
But reflects that like I hear these are my friends. I'm here on these podcasts. My comedy sucks, and everyone shits on him. And it finally, and granted, it took a while to catch up, but everyone's like, dude, you're done. You know, you're out, you know, like essentially. Yeah.
It's so funny you mentioned him. I randomly saw a clip of him being like talking about Mark Maron, shitting on all the Kill Tony people, whatever. And then basically this clip is like Brandon Schaub has chosen his side and his side is like Chris D'Elia and all this other stuff. And I'm like, that's where you're at, is where you're siding with a guy who like a lot of us would be like, hey, I'm not touching it. He was abandoned by a lot of the people he used to hang out with because he's got weird allegations.
Well, it's not even like that too. Oh, Schwab you talk about? Yeah. Well, and I've like heard that too, where it's like, again, this is all the rumor or not rumor, but you know, like
is the gossip,
corner of comedy. But you know, it's. I agree with you on that aspect of like, yeah, dude, like even I like, dude, if you want a podcast, have a good, I think that's that weird thing of like my wife being like, well, maybe you should be a comedian. I was like, no, I shouldn't. If
I can have the wherewithal, the sense
it's
to
like,
know that you shouldn't.
If you're surrounded by people like that, just do a comedy podcast and have fun. Like you can call it a comedy podcast. Like, if you want, you know, like tell jokes, say stupid shit.
You know what I'll say?
Yeah.
He probably would have been better served doing what Tony Hinchcliffe is doing, where I feel like Tony Hinchcliffe surrounds himself with funnier people, and that, or like not. It's the complete spectrum. It's people who are way funnier than him, or people who aren't as funny as him, who are like brand new or whatever. And then he kind of just gets to sit back and be like a third party and kind of comment on all this stuff. Right? He's an orchestrator of all this stuff instead of the focal point a lot of times. So it's like the show still got his name, so it feels like he's, you know, everyone cares, but like the reality is, if you're out there and you're watching this, comment in the comment section of this video. Name your favorite Kill Tony joke, name your favorite Tony Hinchcliffe joke. Bet you can't do it because there isn't one. You know, like he's not known as a good comedian. He's known as like the orchestrator of this thing that everybody likes. which I don't think is even necessarily bad.
Yeah.
But I think it is an interesting delineation between.
It's like between being like an entertainer and a comedian, almost.
It's the different. Yeah, it's kind of like, I hosted a party or I hosted a comedy show.
Yeah. Or like Conan O'Brien.
Yeah,
you know
Conan.
Like,
Conan. I wouldn't say as a stand-up comedian.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. And there's sometimes people surprise me that
He's
arc,
still very funny.
That crush, like John Mulaney.
John Mulaney is one of the best stand-ups to
and like I remember his early stuff. I bought like 2 of his early albums back in like 2010, 2011, 2012, and I was like, dude, this guy murders. And then it kind of like went silent there but he was like a writer for and I'm like, dude, like he was, but his name was never that big. I feel now maybe, but he does definitely have a bigger name now. Yeah, for sure.
It's funny because he's like selling out if he wants to. Like I think he either just came to or was in Minnesota, or will be in Minnesota, and like he can sell out a theater like that.
Yep.
But he's not doing like an arena tour, right? Yeah. But I also don't think he ever would want to. And if he decided that he wanted to, I think he could do those things. You know what I mean? So it's like he's a version of like, this is this guy. He only really seems to do what he wants to do. And he's a guy who got his own TV show and people didn't like it. People thought it sucked. It failed. It was on Fox and like he had to bounce back from that. He had to bounce back from addiction and like being very publicly divorced from his wife and all this, and like low-key maybe kind of had like started something with someone else and all this stuff. Like he's very public with all this stuff. I thought his latest special was really good because he talks about a lot of that. And like it's very vulnerable, which I feel like before you didn't really feel like you knew John Mulaney. You felt like you knew the character of John Mulaney. Yeah. But now in his last special on Netflix, he's talking about going to rehab and stuff, and like going to rehab as a famous person, which is like such a niche topic, but so interesting to hear about. And he's very like honest about how vain he was and how he'd be like, well, like I don't know, like looking at a newspaper meeting, like basically wanted to be like, that's me on there or something, Yeah. Which is awesome. Like, I think that's so great. Mulaney is such a great comedian. And I think what's great about him is that he's particular. Like, he chooses projects that he believes in. And then he's like found his voice. He really just knows who he is or whatever. Like I don't know if you've ever seen it. I don't know that you would like it. I don't know that anyone else liked the show besides me. But he had this show, Everybody's in LA.
I heard about it. I never saw it.
It's so random. It's like if a kid had to do a project and the project they were like, I'm just going to do a 60s style talk show. That's what it feels like. And he's incredible on it. It's so goofy and dumb and specifically like LA weird. I really liked it. And I'm just like, that's what I want to do. I want to be a guy who like is very specific with what I choose. I'm very picky. But when I do it, I'm going all out, and it's only for the people who really fuck with it. It's only for the people who really are like, hey, I'm a Ben Katzner guy. Even that's too weird for me. Yeah. I love that stuff.
Yeah. Well, I think too is like when you talk about John Mulaney, I think there's aspects of like certain things that work and don't work. Like that would have been a really probably great YouTube channel that he started. Yeah. Opposed to like was it Netflix?
It was Netflix. Yeah.
It's like Netflix. You should, because we run into that a lot on just production side. It's like, dude, this isn't $1 million streaming show. This is a YouTube, or
Netflix should know that. That's what I like about what he did. Yeah. Sorry to cut you off, but what is genius is like he's like, I mean, if you guys are dumb enough to pay for this, I'll do it.
That's true. Yeah. If Netflix wants to pay for me,
he's like, I don't give a shit. I'm not. He's like, I'm not spending my own money on this. This is like just. They were like, hey, do you? Because they have like a festival every year in LA. Netflix is a joke, and they're like, as part of this festival, do you want to do something? And he was like, this is what I want to do. And they're like, okay. And it's like, all right, if they want to spend whatever $10 million on that shit, they're dumb. He's not dumb for doing that.
Oh, yeah. 100%. They're dumb. Yeah. I mean, if it was more of like, if you wanted to succeed and gather and like, it's like, okay, that's a YouTube show. And you probably murder. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, we're in a weird space. I shouldn't say weird because more and more people are going to, but like YouTube, even from, I remember back in film school, but when YouTube was really starting to get its feet, even though it had been around for 8-9 years, it was starting to get its like respected feet. Hollywood still wasn't messing with it, but you can build an audience outside of it and make really good money and influence some things here and there. But now, you start seeing like celebrities trying to do podcasts and they try to do a YouTube channel. It's like, it doesn't work. You know, it has to be genuine, but it does give people like us to be like, hey, we're in Minnesota. You know, there's one guy I love listening to. I actually want to get him on the podcast. I went to Scotland. And I was like, okay, there's no way I can swing this, but he's like probably impossible to get a hold of now. But like the Critical Drinker, he's a Scottish dude that just like writes. You know, he's a massive movie channel about and it is awesome. Like I love. He's like our era. You know, like when Con Air was the best, and like you look back, like he's a writer too, so he's really good at putting up and they're very simple YouTube videos, and he just does his theory and his thoughts on them. Yeah, and then dude says like 2.35 million. You know what I mean? And he's just doing it out of his thing, and he's probably not saying the most respected critic, but when you start looking at critics now, it's not like they don't exist anymore. Like they don't like.
And it's just like interesting. It's a more interesting way to do it. Than
he breaks things down. He like, and then you can go to movie reviewers on YouTube. They have 1 million plus, and they're the ones that go to theaters now. That Hollywood's like, hey, watch this. Yeah. And then they give an honest review, and they have 1 million followers, and you know, and typically YouTube will translate into film goers or like that interesting. Like Instagram. You know, it's like us translating it, like it translates for us into streamers. Yeah. But you know, they have that avenue. And I think that's the cool thing about, you know, either comedy or just things that we're doing in our era now. Everything's a lot more obtainable. Yeah. But the bar is lowered though. The bar is on the floor. And we did that with digital cinema. We knew that right out the gate digital democratized filmmaking. Yeah. The bar is lowered, but I think it also gives a lot more opportunities to the people. More talented people can rise to the top, opposed to that funnel. Yeah. And even the most talented. And then granted, there is advantages to that. It's like going to the NBA or going to the Olympics. Sometimes it's a good thing of having that funnel. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like you will get the best of the best in Hollywood. Like when people are, I can't believe it was these guys. Like, yeah, was there nepotism? Probably. Yeah. Was it networking? 100%. Were they the most talented filmmakers on the planet? Yes, they were. Yeah. Like they were. Like you can't deny the 90s into 2000s, how good they were, and watch what we're getting now on Netflix. And you're like, what? They gave 80 million, again, Netflix spending, like, give me 80 million. Just go for it. Like, I'd love it. Like, I'll create a shit movie too.
So many things have even changed. And like, it is so funny to be like, it's like, I noticed like all these subscription services, their pricing is going up, but their content isn't getting that much better. You know what I mean? Yeah. Yep. It's like, where's this money? Are you you're hemorrhaging money? So you're taking it from the people that you said you're going to keep costs down or whatever. Yeah. And now we're back to basically like
cable.
Yes. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, what if you just, I don't know, made better stuff? Don't you think that would be a little bit easier for you to get more people to watch it, whatever? And like some stuff is very good, obviously, but sometimes you're like, you hear people talk about, you'll see clips and people will be like, oh, they said we couldn't do a scene like this because like, you got to understand that people are watching on their phone or like they're doing other stuff as they're listening to your movie or whatever. So you can't have this be like a visual subtle thing. It has to be you're just like,
what?
Whoa. So they have it down to like, they know how people are watching everything. Their answer to getting people to pay more attention isn't, hey, let's get more gripping content or better.
Stop what you're doing and watch.
We're not getting them to stop what they're doing. We're dumbing down what people are doing so they don't have to stop what they're doing. And it's like, that's what we're up against. Yeah. That's crazy to me. And like, maybe for stand-up, that's good. Maybe that means people just throw on a YouTube thing and they'll kind of laugh at some jokes, whatever. They'll never see what I look like, and then they come to a show and they're like, "Holy shit, he's black!" You know, like they're shocked or something.
It's actually, I think of radio that way. How many us growing up radio, I never knew what anyone looked like. I still know what KS95 looks like. I don't know what KDWB. I don't know what any of those people look like, and I listened to them for like 20 years.
I wouldn't have known, except I was at the State Fair and I just saw a poster for KS95, and they're like 40 to 50-year-old white people.
Yeah, I know exactly. Yeah. But I mean, you still don't know what they look like.
Yeah. But I mean, so like, funny, dude.
You're like, oh, I bet they look like this, and
you paint a picture. You're like, exactly. Oh, I bet you're exactly right, and then you see them like, oh, damn. All right, that's fine. But yeah, I hope there's a little more for performance. Like, I want the live performance stuff to come back and be like, maybe it's a little more niche and culty and whatever, and it's like, it's not we're doing arenas anymore. Maybe it's like, yeah, we're doing like indie little rock clubs or whatever. But there's a comedian I like, Kyle Kinane.
I love Kyle Kinane.
Incredible. Like
I found him on Pandora.
Yeah.
When we were living together. Yeah.
Yeah, he's just one of the best. And like, he is a guy who came up doing a bunch of indie rooms and whatever. So like, he wasn't in at the big clubs. He wasn't whatever, but he had enough of a following that it's like, I could do this like 150 seat room, whatever, crush, and then come back every year, new material, go somewhere else, do a little run, whatever. And I'm like, if I could do a mix, maybe I do a mix of like that sort of stuff. And then like, yeah, you know, you get a little bit of a following online or something to help. And then you have these multiple revenue streams like we're talking about. Maybe that's the life. I'm okay with that. I don't ever need to do an arena show. I literally have friends. I was talking to my friend Steve Rogers, who he opens for Nate Bargatze sometimes. Brian Regan is someone he opens for.
Oh, and, I know Brian Regan. Yeah.
And then other people. He's a really good comedian. He's a clean comedian, so he doesn't really like swear or anything. On stage, off stage, he's a nasty bitch. No, I'm just kidding. No, Steve's great. But he, one time we were just talking, I was like, he was opening for Nate Bargatze for a few shows, and I was like, how many people do you think you got up in front of over this last weekend? He was counting, and I was like, he's going to be like, oh, like 50, 60,000 people, something. He's like, I don't know, like 110,000 people or something. I'm like, think about how insane that is.
Yeah.
You got up in front of 100,000 plus people. And like, I don't even know if human beings were ever meant to be in front of that. I think about that a lot. I'm like, evolutionarily, I'm sure this is not what we were supposed to be doing. But like, I don't ever need that. I think that's awesome that my friend gets to do that. I think that's incredible. But like, give me a small room with a dedicated audience of like, you know, it doesn't have to be more than like a couple hundred people. And like, I think I could be happy. If I could really do that, I think I could. And they're like, put their phones down, laughing at the jokes, experiencing this thing, and then going out and telling their friends, be like, dude, you missed the Ben Katzner show the other day. Oh, it's not putting it online. It would have been great for you to see it, but you can only see it in person. I would love to do some niche shit where they're like, it's kind of like what Chappelle does sometimes, where it's like phone locked up. You can't record this.
I thought that was pretty common now, is it? Or no?
It's common, but they're doing it in an arena. You're doing it in Target Center.
They're not doing it like for clubs?
For some clubs, depending on the performers. But like, I want it where it's like secret invite, random barn in the backwoods of central Minnesota or something. And then you get to see like this crazy thing. And then like a band closes it out or something that you would never expect. And then it's just like, we're not doing this again next year. Sorry. This was a pop-up show.
Yeah.
There's a thing kind of in Minneapolis. This is purely a marketing ploy, but I think it's a genius marketing ploy right now because you can see people love their little like nostalgia stuff. They had, the All-American Rejects.
Yeah.
They just did like a pop-up. They've been doing pop-up shows.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah.
They were at like
it's like a college house, wasn't it?
They were either at a house or they were at a bowling alley or something. There's been other ones now since, but like imagine like that cool kind of thing. And then it's just like, oh, you just had to be part of the mailing list or whatever, and that's how you got the tickets, and that's it. It might not ever happen again. It's just promoting this thing. But I love stuff like that. And I want people to, I hope there's a push for people to be like, I'm tired of getting slop on Netflix. Sorry, Netflix. Still give me a special if you ever. But like, I'm tired of like being like, people think I'm dumb and that I can't handle a little more nuanced movie or comedy or stand-up that's over a half hour or whatever. I want to be able to talk to the people who are like, I want to see this live. I want them to experience like they experience live music. Because those are the performances I prefer. I prefer a show at First Avenue versus Target Center.
Yeah.
It feels more intimate. It feels like we're all in this together. It feels like we were experiencing a moment. And like, I think you forget that with comedy. We put so much stuff out online that we forget every show is its own unique organism. You could perform all the jokes exactly the same. You could be at the exact same venue for a week straight. You could have all the same openers. You could have the same staff, all the stuff. But the audience will always change. It will never be always the exact same people. So one joke might not ever hit the exact same that it hits the next night, that it hits the next night. And like, that's a special thing. Like, it's a beautiful thing to be able to have that. And I want us to like enjoy that thing again and being like, we have this tonight and then we don't ever have it again.
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
Oh yeah. That's awesome. Well, we are coming up on 2 hours and 42 minutes, brother.
What? It feels like it's been either shorter or longer than that. 2 hours and 42 minutes. Wow.
Yeah. You were like, 3 hours? No way. No, man. Well, dude, this was awesome. Where can people find you and socials, everything? Any last minute words or et cetera?
So let's cut this up in the first 12 minutes of the podcast. You can find me at Shaq Katzner on everything. Shaq, like the basketball player. Katzner, Katzner. My big ask is right now, subscribe to my YouTube. That's where my special is. My special Supple Harlet came out. It's almost 2 weeks old now. And, it's going to be a slow burn. I'm trying to get as many people to it as possible. It's the culmination of over a decade of work. And, fucking Ethan likes it. So maybe you'll like it. You know what I mean? Like,
no, it's good shit. I'm not even saying it's because you're across from me. Like, it was good. It was good. Seriously.
And then check out my podcast, Troll Hole, too. I do it with my buddy Mike Lester, who's a very fun comedian, and our producer, Neil. We have other comedians on. We talk about the crazy comments they get online and in real life. It's very fun. We've had Kelsey Cook, Chad Daniels, Mike Racine, Jackie Cation, Ollie Sultan. Crazy. We have incredible guests for like a small niche podcast out of Minneapolis. So if you like me, I think you'll like that podcast. And then come see me live. I got a website. You can Google Ben Katzner stand-up comedy, whatever. Come see me live. That's really what I want. And I think that's it.
Awesome, bro. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, buddy.